This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Nothing between those two with 3/16 to go, and it is so many ways a narrow lead. Team Pauline continues to fight on second, then farther back, it's Sweet Shirley May third, and Seasoned Warrior fourth. Not today for Team Pauline. The day belongs to So Many Ways. In the spinaway,
Shanghai Bobby in front and getting clear here. Shanghai Bobby's in front by 4. Then Burn Identity and 4 to 5, by Overanalyze. They come down for the wire, and it is Shanghai Bobby to win the hopeful.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
It's Lawyer Ron fully extended. Carlin running his heart out today. Down to the finish. Lawyer Ron. Carlin coming with those giant strides to defeat Lawyer Ron. Carlin wins by a head in an exhilarating stretch run here, defeating Lawyer Ron in the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And take a good look at this, because you're not going to see this too often, maybe never again. Flight line, 20 lengths clear. Flavion Pratt takes a hold and canters in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it is all presented by TwinSpires, and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Happy to have you with me for the next 3 hours, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. What a weekend, huh? This promises to be an incredibly entertaining weekend in thoroughbred racing, as it really does offer something for just about everyone. Whatever your taste in racing is, you're going to find it this weekend. Maybe you're more interested in watching full fields of runners from all parts of the country and even some international contenders try to navigate the most unique turf course in the United States at Kentucky Downs. Or maybe you're the type of racing fan who can't wait to see if upstart classic contender Arthur's Ride can continue his magical run in tomorrow's Jockey Club Gold Cup at Saratoga. And in doing so, he would add his name to a list of previous winners, which includes legendary horses such as Gallant Fox and Whirl Away, Citation, Buck Passer, Kelso, Forgo, and Affirmed, just to name a few. That race steeped in history. Or maybe you're the type of racing fan who just can't get enough of our sport's future stars. Got you covered there, too, with the Spinaway and the Hopeful on this closing weekend at Saratoga. So whatever facet of the sport piques your interest, you're going to find it somewhere this weekend. And if you enjoyed watching Torpedo Anna gaining on fierceness with every stride in last weekend's Travers, you're not alone. And you were probably looking forward to the intriguing matchup in today's Pacific Classic with 5-year-old mare Adair Manor looking to knock off the boys in Delmar's signature race. Unfortunately, as we know, that's not going to happen. Following the news that came out yesterday, Adair Manor has scratched after tying up following her training on Thursday, essentially experiencing cramping after her gallop. That's what tying up means. It's essentially cramping. Trainer Bob Baffert said yesterday that she was a little tight even yesterday, and he noted that she can't afford to be off of her game even a little bit to run against the boys in the Pacific Classic. So they're going to sit this one out. You'll hear more from Adair Manor down the road, I'm sure. But if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you'll no doubt be paying attention to Dr. Venkman, who is now going to be the likely favorite in the Classic. He's named, of course, for the Bill Murray character in that hit movie from the 1980s. And I'm going to spend plenty of time talking about the Pacific Classic with you here this morning. DRF turf rider Steve Andersen will be with me at 9:40 Eastern later in the second hour of the program. He's going to join me live from Southern California to give you the latest updates on everything happening on this Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar. I'm also going to kick off the show in a few minutes with our first guest, Dylan Davis, who took time yesterday to be with me for an interview. He is currently 4th in the standings at Saratoga, which is a remarkable accomplishment on his part. But he's not stopping there. He's 12 wins behind Irad Ortiz Jr. for the top spot. He's not likely to catch Irad Ortiz Jr. Let's be real about that. But he won 2 more races yesterday after our conversation, which puts him just 5 wins shy of Tyler Gaffalione for the 3rd position, 3rd place in the jockey standings. And that is a goal that Dylan has set for himself. You're going to hear him talk about that in our interview coming up in just a few minutes. He is named to ride in 12 races later today. So barring any scratches, another big day from Dylan Davis in those 12 races. And he's going to go into the final 2 days of the meet, potentially 2-3 wins out of 3rd place. And keep in mind that Tyler Gaffalione is out of town for the rest of the meet. We'll see him at Kentucky Downs later today. He is out of town. So a golden opportunity for Dylan to achieve one of his many goals he set for himself, and you'll hear him talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. Terry Finley going to be with me later in the first hour as well. Terry, of course, the man behind West Point Thoroughbreds, will join me 8:35 Eastern. They have 5 horses entered in graded stakes today, including Carson's Run and Cugino in the $3.1 million Nashville Derby at Kentucky Downs. So a busy day for the West Point team. Those black and gold colors will be on full display, and I'll talk to Terry about that at 8:35. Karl Glassman is the owner of Arthur's Ride, who tomorrow can continue his hot streak in the Jockey Club Gold Cup for trainer Bill Mott. And Carl's going to be with me at 9 Eastern to kick off hour number 2 to look ahead to the Jockey Club Gold Cup, look back on that big win in the Whitney. And I'll ask him, what was it about Arthur's Ride in the very beginning that led them to say, maybe this horse could be special? We'll talk to him at 9 Eastern. 9:20, you talk about special. That's what Ferocious was in his debut, winning in his first start for owners Ramiro Restrepo and team. That is the Gustavo Delgado team. Same team that brought you Kentucky Derby winner Mage. Ferocious is going in Monday's hopeful, looking to take the next step in his young career. Oh, boy, was he good. He lived up to his name, didn't he? So I'll get a chance to talk to Ramiro for a few minutes, 9:20 Eastern. And as I mentioned, 9:40, it is DRF's Steve Andersen who will be here to talk about the Pacific Classic Day program at Del Mar. Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek has 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. Fun story about a Travers Stakes of yesteryear that you won't want to miss. And then Dale and Tim with I Ask They Answer, 10:30 Eastern to wrap up this program. And here's the cool thing about today's edition of I Ask They Answer. Every question on today's show has been submitted by you, our listeners. And every week we encourage you, I encourage you here on the program, Dale and Tim encourage you to submit your questions for them. If you have a topic you want to hear them debate, maybe something you think could be a little controversial, if you have a question about racing of any kind, there are no silly questions. You can submit that to us, and we'll work it into the program in the weeks ahead. And you can do it via email, mike@horseracingradio.net. You can hit us up on our social media pages, at HRRN on X and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. That's the same way you can participate in today's poll question, which is this: who is your favorite Pacific Classic winner of all time? Your favorite Pacific Classic winner of all time. Now, the race was inaugurated in 1991, and there have been some really memorable moments over the years. I think most people will, in the modern era of the Pacific Classic, if you will look back to Beholder's incredible run, the only filly, the only female still to beat the boys in that race. That's what Adair Manor was hoping to attempt later today. But as I mentioned earlier, she has been scratched. So Beholder will continue with that title as the only female ever to beat the boys. But how about the very first running of the Pacific Classic in 1991? I was a big fan of Best Pal. I liked a lot of the Golden Eagle Farm horses back then. And Best Pal put on a show that day. Completed the mile and a quarter, 159.80 under Patrick Valenzuela for trainer Gary Jones. Best Pal was pretty good. Then you had the Bobby Frankel assault on the Pacific Classic with Missionary Ridge in 1992, Bertrando in 1993, Tinner's Way in 94 and 95. 4 consecutive wins by the late Bobby Frankel. Darren Go, 1996. Who can forget that day with Richard Mandela? Mandela won it again the following year with Gentleman. And then you had horses like Freehouse and General Challenge and Skimming winning it 2 years in a row. I remember Borrego in 2005. That was one of my favorites. I was close with the late John Greeley, his brother Bo, the trainer of Borrego. The late Garrett Gomez was aboard. Borrego on his day was as brilliant as any racehorse that we've seen. Then you had Lava Man. Such a great story there. You had Richard's Kid win it a couple of times. Game on Dude, another favorite. How about our man Dale Romans? I think people will forget that he won it with Doulahan or Dullahan in 2012. Maybe I'll try to get to that later in the program with him. You had California Chrome in 2016, the year after Beholder. And then, of course, Flightline with that Tour de Force. We played that call in the open of today's show. That was in 2022 for John Sadler, Flavian Pratt, Horonis Racing, Summerwind Farm, West Point Thoroughbreds, and Sienna. And when I welcome Terry to the program here at 8:35, I'll bring that up with him. If I ask him what his favorite winner of the Pacific Classic was, I'm pretty sure Flightline's going to be high on the list. But that was a special performance, too. As you heard Trevor say in his call, you may never see that again. Just romped, destroyed that field. So that's our question today. Go to @HRN on X. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and you can comment and let us know. Who is your favorite Pacific Classic winner of all time? If you don't do social media, email your answer to me, Mike@horseracingradio.net, and I'll update the answers as we move throughout the program here this morning. So here's the full lineup for you. Dylan Davis coming your way in just a couple of minutes. Terry Finley from West Point at 8:35. Karl Glassman talking about Arthur's Ride, 9 Eastern. 9:20, Ramiro Restrepo. Get a chance to look ahead to the hopeful with him. 9:40, Steve Andersen from the Daily Racing Forum talking Pacific Classic. 10 o'clock Eastern, Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek, 3 races you can keep an eye on and bet at TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, 10:20. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim. Very busy show. We'll get to it next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in Ten Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
The Queen's MG looming up on the outside and Dare to Breeze. 3 of them across the track at the top of the stretch. The Queen's MG is up to take the lead. Dare to Breeze in second. Italian Soiree is trying to rally, but the Queen's MG has given them the wave off. The Queen's MG absolutely towering over the competition in the Adirondack. Wins by 8. Italian Soiree, Atomic City, and Dare to Breeze.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Frank Miramati with the call. The Queen's MG giving them the wave off. I love it. That was a big effort in the Adirondack, and the Queen's MG is back in action Saturday afternoon in the Grade 1 Spinaway, and Dylan Davis will be aboard as he has been for the past couple of victories. And what a meet it has been for Dylan Davis at Saratoga. Currently 4th in the rider standings with 31 victories going into Friday. This conversation being recorded on Friday with Dylan because his Saturday is very busy. He has 31 victories going into Friday. So as you're listening on Saturday, those totals could be higher. He is 12 wins behind Erod Ortiz Jr. So not sure if he can catch Erod, but he has his sights set on those in front of him. But what a meet it's been, and he's with us now here on the Equine Forum. Dylan, congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, man. All right, so I mentioned currently 4th. Don't think you can get to Erod. That's asking an awful lot with just a couple of days left of racing there. But what's the goal going forward here?
So Tyler Gaffion's out of town here for the rest of the meet, besides Monday. So, trying to catch him. He's 5 in front of me, so looking to really finish things off here this last week.
What's been the key to this amazing meet that you're having?
There's a lot of credit to everybody, but a lot goes to my agent, Mike Migliori. He's believed in me in the beginning, but we put in a lot of hard work to get to this point in the Naira circuit, and I feel like everything's paying off. I'm doing my part, learning as a rider as I go and improving, and also himself, Mike, improving as an agent, how to manage the business and trying to move forward and everything. And I think everything just come together to this point, and I'm happy that I'm having such a successful meet.
You mentioned putting in a lot of hard work, both you and Mike Migliori. What does that mean, Dylan? What does a jockey and an agent have to do to get to this type of a level?
Yeah, so we have to grow together as a team. We have to our most thoughtful key is communication. So while working in the morning and working with horses and building relationships with the trainers and owners, which it takes a long time because you have to build trust in my riding ability and his work ethic as well. So working in the morning, getting on a lot of horses, and getting them ready for the races, whether we ride them or not. That's how it was when we started, and just trying to prove ourselves that we can compete at this level. And it just was on a steady incline. So it was, the quality of horses I've been getting better and better every year, and moving into bigger outfits and better horses, and always preparing for that opportunity and striving to get better. So I think that the hard work in the mornings people believe in, and the riding ability out there for myself to get the job done. It's been that long road, but it took a long process to get there. But I think that's what a lot of it has contributed to.
What's different about Dylan Davis now in 2024 than the Dylan Davis that started riding about a dozen years ago?
A lot. Maturity, confidence in myself, being able to ride with a colony like that, because it could get a little bit, you can really push you a step back because you're riding with a lot of Hall of Famers. But I've ridden with these guys year after year and competing with them, and I've beaten everybody. So I have confidence in myself on getting the job done, and I think the people see that, the trainers and the owners and the horses feel the confidence, and really, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Every win is special, Dylan, but I'm sure there are a couple that stand out more than others, especially this meet when you're winning greatest stakes races. What are a couple of your personal highlights from this Saratoga meet?
There's many, but the one that tops the charts is Carson's run, giving me my first grade one at Saratoga in the States. It just being in my hometown and at the best track in the country meant a lot to me. So that deserves a picture to hang up on the wall at my house for sure.
Yeah, Carson's run, winning the Saratoga Derby Invitational, that grade one, and it was a special day. When you crossed the finish line and you got that huge victory under your belt, what was the moment like for you?
Too many, I can't even really explain it, but emotional, because you think about, again, all the hard work that I've put in to get to this moment. I cherished every minute of that, coming back to the winner's circle, and I think about all the hard work that we've put in to get to this point, and I thought it was well-deserved. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I'm happy that it happened sooner than later, and it's a memory that I will never forget.
Yeah, you really have to feel like, Dylan, you belong now, right? I mean, you're closing in on, 1,400 career victories, but to have a meet like this, as you said, at one of the premier, if not the premier meet that the sport offers at Saratoga, you really have to look around and say, yeah, I'm riding with a lot of Hall of Famers, but I'm right there with you now.
No, of course. So this is really, I think this is a big step up of what I've done here in the meet, and a lot of people have taken notice to my rides and everything like that. So, you hope that because of this kind of meet that I've had, that it's going to be a big step forward in my career, and I'm hoping for that as well. So just continuing on to ride smart and hard, and hoping that I can get some more business into the bigger races.
Okay, we heard the call of the Queen's MG winning the Adirondack last time out. She has been really, really good for trainer Safi Joseph Jr., and you've had the privilege to be aboard her for both of her stakes wins at Saratoga. The Spinaway coming up Saturday afternoon. What do you learn? What do you feel underneath you with the Queen's MG that gives you the confidence that she's going to be a factor again Saturday afternoon?
I got very lucky to get on her in the beginning of the meet, but she's a very quality horse. She's not that very big, but she's got big heart, and the way she manages herself in the race is exceptional. And I know that she'll handle the 7/8 no problem. And she's been in good form. I breezed her last work, and she breezed very well for me. And what I like is she's got more of an outside post again, but I know she can handle the inside if we have it. But she's very quick out of the gate, and she listens to me on my commands, and wherever I want her, then she can switch off and get in good rhythm and relax for me, whether she's done it at 21 and change and she's done it at 22 and change. So wherever she's at, she'll be able to switch off, and she just explodes down the lane. So I don't think that you're not going to see that again going into the Spinaway. She's going to put on I think she's going to put on a great performance again.
She won the Adirondack by 9 lengths. Dylan, what's it like for a jockey when you're in front by that much coming through the stretch? Are you looking behind you thinking, where's the competition? I mean, how does that work? What goes through your mind?
Yeah, so I try to not look back too much, but I know that she was far in front. So, being that she's a young horse, I keep her to task, but I don't use her 100%, so she could take care of herself as well. She doesn't hurt herself, but keeping her to task and knowing that she's still got to get the job done and keep her focused in there. But in doing that in a mistake race, it's a great feeling for a jockey, and to be able to sit on a horse like that is a great feeling, and knowing that you're the best out there in the competition. So I know that the other riders know that she's a horse to beat, so you just got to keep a lookout and ride her race the way she likes to.
Yep. The race before that, the Priory Stakes, you're going to be aboard Tricky Temper for Jeremiah Engelhart. Different scenario here. If I'm not mistaken, this will be the first time that you have ridden Tricky Temper in the afternoon. So tell me a little bit about what your approach is going into a race like this with a horse you've never ridden.
Yeah, so what I like to do is I like to watch replays and see how she likes to run. I know she likes to run off the pace a little bit. She could stalk or get covered up a little bit with Flavian Pratt was doing. He's a nice, relaxed rider, patient rider. So I think we have a lot of similarities. But watch the replays, think about my thoughts on the race, and then I have to talk to Jeremiah and see what his thoughts are and what his insight. And we just kind of have to work together as a team. And I've done it plenty of times where I have not sat on a horse and ridden and win. So I know how to adjust with new horses that I haven't ridden with and to go from there. So that, in the stake race, you have to really listen to the trainer and see what their thoughts are.
I remember sitting down with John Velasquez years and years ago, and he explained to me that he always has multiple plans in his head when he enters the starting gate, an A, a B, a C, and even more than that if he needs it. But then when the gates open, things can just fall apart, and you just have to rely on your instincts. So kind of the same thing with you, Dylan. Do you go into the starting gate with that same mindset?
Yeah, so I'll have key horses in the race where a speed will be, and then horses to beat, like my main competition. And I'll keep a few numbers in my head so I know that, I can be confident that they can get me through certain holes if I need to, or if they're making early moves, just to keep an eye on them. But I'll have a couple plan A and plan Bs. I don't too many plans. Just 2 plans would be good enough for me. And then, like you said, if a horse stumbles or a horse scratches or bad break or you break on a flyer, there's a lot of situations where you can change. And then just coming into instincts and experience, you kind of have to adjust and kind of, it's hard to make a one plan work out because we're working with horses and animals and riders, and horses have different plans, and you have to adjust during the race, really.
Race number 12 is the Grade 2 Flower Bowl. Parnack is your mount in there, and you are familiar with this 5-year-old mare because you've been aboard her the past several starts. Tell me more about Parnack and your approach going into the Flower Bowl.
Yes, I do. I'll speak to the Clements tomorrow. They want me to come by the barn, but it's probably similar to last year. She likes to be close up front and just break her well. If she's on the lead at good fractions, I'll take it. But if there's someone that's willing, then I'll be able to sit in the box. But definitely want to be forward with her. She's not a big turn of foot kind of filly, but that'll give her her best chances to the win.
All right, and then on Sunday, you'll be aboard Pioneering Spirit in the Bernard Baruch. Tell me about Pioneering Spirit.
I'm not sure about Pioneer. I have to look that one up. But again, similar to like Jeremiah's horse, watching replays and going off what the trainer wants to do and working out a plan. Riding over 40 horses this week, so there's a lot to. I try to keep it simple and take it day by day, but there's a lot to overwhelm yourself with.
Yeah, where do you find time for anything else in your life? Do you just leave the track and go home and start watching replays and studying the racing form?
Sometimes I do, but I have 2 kids that I like to play with and give them my time as much as I can. There's not much hours in the day up here at Saratoga, so we get home maybe 7:30 and eat dinner and then get ready for bed because I think my kids deserve my time as much as I can give them before I have to work again 6 o'clock to 7 at Saratoga. It gets a little easier at Aqueduct, but that's why I try to take it day by day. I don't try to overwhelm myself with racing.
Are they future jockeys?
My boy Michael, he wants to be a jock. He was here yesterday with the silks on, the helmet, the whole ordeal on the Equicizer. And I thought he had the same form as me, just sitting on a horse. He looks really good.
I know your immediate goal now is to try to catch Tyler. You talked about that earlier. See if you can get yourself up into that third position in the jockey standings. That would be an incredible accomplishment, Dylan. How about beyond Saratoga? What are some other goals you've set for yourself going forward?
I like to have more Breeders' Cup mounts. I've ridden there Santa Anita last year, and I had a great time. I'd like to get more taste of that. And then this following Kentucky Derby, try to find a mount into there. Just being, trying to find better horses and getting into the bigger races, the grade ones, and riding them more frequently.
All right, well, I'm sure there are a few owners and trainers listening to the show right now, and you just heard Dylan say he wants to get more Breeders' Cup mounts. So give him a call, give his agent a call if you're going to be looking for a jockey for your horse in the Breeders' Cup, because Dylan Davis is red hot right now, riding at the best level of his entire career. And, Dylan, I can't thank you enough for spending a little time with me here this morning, my friend.
Thanks. I had a great time. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, all the best. Safe trip every time you get a leg up.
Thank you.
All right, that is Dylan Davis here on HRRN. And really, I mean, great kid, right? Smart rider. You hear him talk about his preparation, his approach, and the things that he does, how he approaches the beginning of a race going into the starting gate. There's a reason that Dylan Davis is where he is right now in the Saratoga standings. He works his tail off. Good stuff from Dylan. My thanks to him for taking the time here this morning. Back with more on the Equine Forum right after this week's edition of the Legends of the Turf and a short commercial break. Stay with me. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The thoroughbred being profiled herein was unreservedly classified as a true superstar, both on the racetrack and in the breeding shed, until he went his way to the big paddock in the sky, so to speak, at the age of 27. His death came at Alfred G. Vanderbilt's Sagamore Farm in Glendon, Maryland in 1958. He was the son of Ariadne out of display by Light Brigade, was foaled in 1931, and raced for 4 seasons for A.G. Vanderbilt. He started 63 times, won 27, had 10 seconds and 10 thirds. That's 47 out of 63 in the money. He earned $195,000 plus during his lifetime on the track, and that was an awful lot of money in the 1930s. He was a renowned carrier of high weight, and as a result of that ability, earned the nickname of the Big Train while still racing. That was a highly favorable moniker indeed, if one but considers that the immortal Walter Johnson of Baseball Hall of Fame carried the same nickname. This Muirworth farm bred had quite a remarkable racing record indeed. In 33 starts at the ages of 4 and 5, his average impost carried was 131 pounds. He won 10 of his composite total of 27, weighted at 130 or over, 2 at 130, 1 at 131, 3 packing 132, 2 with 135, 1 with 136, and 1 race with an imposing 139 pounds on his back. There's not a single thoroughbred racing in this country today that even remotely be considered capable of that ability, not one. In his career on the track, he won the Brooklyn Handicap 3 times, the Rhode Island, Maryland, Butler, San Carlos, Stars and Stripes, Bunker Hill, Arlington, Cincinnati, Merchants and Citizens, Kenner, and the Whitney 3 times, the Wilson twice, the Detroit Challenge Cup and Hawthorne Gold Cup, among many others. John Salvatore Harvey wrote of him, quote, "He was called upon to do things no other thoroughbred had ever attempted, and if he did not uniformly succeed, his success was such that the voices of detraction should be silent in the presence of a performer so transcendent," end of quote. He was retired as stud for the 1937 season at Sagamore and continued for many years most successfully in that role at that farm. He was a sire of Fine, the outstanding distance horse who indeed took after his father and many stakes winners, including Loser Weeper, New Moon, Traffic Court, Conniver, Knockdown, Miss Disco, Too Timely, Femme Fatale, First Glance, Dispose, New World, Dark Discovery, Lord Calvert. Newsbeat, Columbus Kitchen Police, First Serve, Sometime Thing, Bonar, Coveted, and Foreign Affair. What an array of glittering stars of the turf. His greatest fame at stud came via his production of superb daughters. Vanderbilt often stated a very simple breeding rule, quote, breed a mare by this great horse to anything, end of quote. Among his outstanding producing distappers were Geisha, dam of Native Dancer, and Miss Disco, dam of the quintessentially brilliant Bull Ruler. Both Geisha and Bull Ruler were horses of the year. They also sired the dams of Hasty Road, Grover B., Better Roses, and Traffic Judge. Both Mr. Vanderbilt, his owner, and Ralph Kirchable, who was the Sagamore farm manager for many years, vowed there never was another horse like this one, who was affectionately nicknamed Pops. So fond were they both of this grand old campaigner that they bid farewell to him before the day of his demise from progressively poor health, which was on August 28, 1958. Neither wanted to be around when he was put to sleep to mercifully spare him from any undue suffering. He was buried in the farm cemetery next to the only other horse buried there, the superb mare Better Roses. This great thoroughbred, who left an indelible mark in capital letters on the now yellowed pages of both racetrack history and stud records, was the brilliant Discovery, a true legend of the turf.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
They're at the top of the stretch, and it's still Isidoro. Here's Legend of Time.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in 10 Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track, or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races, and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby. His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're at the top of the stretch, and it's still Isidoro. Here's Legend of Time cut loose to take the lead. Outside of him, Carson's Run is within a length and a half, and Royal Majesty comes through on the fence. It's Legend of Time, Royal Majesty, Carson's Run on the outside with big strides to the lead. And Carson's Run has won the Saratoga Derby Invitational. Under a perfect ride from Dylan Davis, he moved at the right time on the backstretch, and he beats Legend of Time, Royal Majesty, and Deterministic.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires, and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you up until 11 a.m. Eastern, as always, on this Saturday morning, the final Saturday in the month of August. That was Frank Miramati with the call of the Grade 1 Saratoga Derby Invitational, won by Carson's Run for West Point Thoroughbreds and Partners. And Carson's Run back in action later today in the $3.1 million Nashville Derby at Kentucky Downs. He joins his stablemate Cugino in at least his fellow West Point stablemate Cugino set to go later today. And Terry Finley with West Point is with me now. He has 5 horses entered in graded stakes later today. So it's a very busy day for the West Point team. Terry, appreciate a few minutes, my friend.
Hey, good to be with you, my brother. Good to be with you.
Man, that call has to put a smile on your face, doesn't it?
Yeah, for any number of reasons. You know, overall, Grade 1s are very tough to win, and especially at Saratoga, and everything just came together. And, you know, that's the magic of our business. When things come together, you know, there's a real sweetness to it. for sure.
I just visited with Dylan Davis in the previous segment. Actually, he took time yesterday morning because today was so busy for him. He visited with me yesterday, and we talked about his signature moment, his favorite, most memorable race or victory of the entire Saratoga meet. And he didn't hesitate. He went right to Carson's Run, winning that Saratoga Derby. So it was special for him, too.
Yeah, it was, Mike. And the thing, I think back to that day, and obviously when you look at the replays, I know Maggie interviewed him as they were coming back to the winner's circle, and pride that he showed in his voice when he said, "I'm a Saratoga High graduate." It was really nice. And, I know he had a lot of people, a lot of friends and family there. So, in your hometown to do something like that and at that level and on that stage is really pretty neat. And we were glad to be part of it. We really were.
Yeah, the human connections that we see in this sport and the way that things come together sometimes for people is quite remarkable. And the story of Carson's Run, you came on the show, I believe it was last year, Terry, and we talked about this. You told the story of how this colt got his name. So if you don't mind, just walk through that a little bit for us here, because people didn't catch it last year. It's a phenomenal story.
Yeah. So Wade Yost is the father of Carson Yost, and we named this colt after Carson. And ironically and amazingly, he had the same, or actually does have the same condition as Cody Dorman. And unbeknownst to either of the parents, they had two really good horses named after their sons. And of course we saw the tragedy of Cody, but the parents, they got a shot to get together and they got a shot to exchange numbers, and they've stayed in touch last year. So everything just fell into place. And we were talking about the probability, the statistical probability of two young men that face challenges in their whole life as those two young men have, and to have really exceptionally, really top-level horses that were named after them, and really give them a shot to see their namesakes out on the racetrack when both of them they had never taken a step in their lives, and they were, and they've been able to see the world in wheelchairs, but they've really been able to grab hold of this experience. And I think it was great for Cody. It's great for Carson, and it's also great for their families, right? Because you can imagine the challenge that they face. But to put those challenges aside, you also have the love and the respect and the admiration and the inspiration, right, that those kids show, and their parents and their family show. So as you said, right, racing brings us together in a lot of ways. And it really, I think it teaches us a lot of lessons in so many different ways. And I think these two stories of Carson and of Cody, they really drive home. It is about family. It's about friends, and it's about life in general and all the blessings that we have.
Carson's Run is now a two-time Grade 1 winner, so he knows how to get it done in big races. What are you seeing from him since that win at Saratoga that leads you to believe he's ready for another peak effort this afternoon?
Yeah, so the Clements have done a great job, and I think they're a dynamic duo, right? You have Miguel and Kristufek, and I think they make a great team, and they make each other better. We were all concerned about bringing him back so quickly. Obviously the race was delayed a week up in Saratoga. But obviously with the kind of money they're offering at Kentucky Downs, we had to have it. And so we worked this colt last week on the grass at Oklahoma, and he worked, really well. He's always been a good workhorse. So we thought it was worth a try. But we know that we're coming back awful quick for a top horse, a top colt on the grass. So anyway, we'll give it a shot, and that's what we all do in the racehorse business, right? You just got to give them shots. But we're coming in with really a significant amount of confidence today, and I think he's going to show up. It'll just be a matter if he's good enough.
Well, and if for some reason he wouldn't, you have a backup plan with Cugino, and that's not being disrespectful to him. It's just pointing out that you have two horses in the race. Cugino doesn't take a back seat to many horses either, because he has been as honest as they come throughout the first 6 starts of his career, trained by the Hall of Famer Shug McGahee. He comes out of a stakes win too, not a greatest stakes, but the Audubon Stakes, the listed stakes at Churchill on June 1st. Tell me more about Cugino.
Yeah, well, he's trained by a Hall of Famer, and he's ridden by a future Hall of Famer. I talk about Pratt. I think he's a difference maker. He really is. And I know he just set the record up at Saratoga yesterday in the Saranac, right, for graded stakes wins at Saratoga. Yep. But we actually bred this horse. We had a partnership, and we put him in the sale, and another partnership bought him. So that's what's really, I never really had a sense of the the pride that breeders have, right? Because I really hadn't bred that many horses, and we hadn't bred that many horses. But we bred this one, and he's a twirling candy. You know, he was raised at Lane's End, and I just thought he was a really nice horse, and he's really put it together over last year since he started last fall at Aqueduct. And he's got a lot of speed. He's kind of been a work in progress. And he was all set to run in the Saratoga Derby, and he had the morning of the race, he just caught a fever, and only took him a couple days, but just really bad timing. So, I think he's been off for 92 days now, but I don't think there's any concern in Shug's mind. And, although we drew a tough post, we're outside, but I just saw that Chad is scratched in there, so that'll help because I think he was going to be a pace factor with us. So, I know we'll be forwardly placed, and let's see if he takes to that course and if he's good enough as well.
Cugino translates to cousin in Italian, the Italian word for cousin. So I've been attracted to him really from early on in his career because I loved his name. I thought that was fantastic. I have a cousin in Massachusetts, and his whole family's from Italy, and we always call each other up on the phone, and the first thing we say is, "Hey, Cugino." So I was a big fan of this horse just because of his name, Terry. When you have so many partners involved and you're working with an entire team on a horse, whether you bred the horse or you just bought the horse, how does the naming process work? Who comes up with the names?
Yeah, we don't have a set standard. There's no set protocol. Sometimes somebody will take a big chunk. They'll take 25 or 50% of a horse, and obviously they're going to be entitled to the name. Sometimes we take it from the pedigree, and other times there's just a name that strikes us. So we just in steps, and we don't fret about it. We try to get really good names for our horses, and when they run and they run fast and they're successful, they seem to have great names. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, it's true. It really is true. You have another horse in the ladies turf sprint, that grade 2 race at Kentucky Downs this afternoon, and that's another cool name. Don't Look Back at All. It is all one word. And tell me the story here.
Yeah, well, she's a PA bred. She's by Peace and Justice, a stallion that Steve Young actually stands still in Pennsylvania, and he bred this filly, an inexpensive mare, and we really liked her. We gave her a good bit of money. We gave $150,000, which I think is the most anybody's ever paid for a Peace and Justice PA bred at the 2-year-old sale in Ocala.
Wow.
But I think somebody just came up with it, and they had the same response. Like we all of us really like that. When you say it, it's a mouthful, but it flows. And we were hoping, right, that she would show the speed and she'd be in front. And, right, she would not have to look back at all, and the partners wouldn't have to look back at all either. So we just thought it was a cute name for like a really good prospect. And, she's really, really turned the corner in a lot of respects. She's gotten faster. She's gotten bigger and stronger. I think her confidence level is at an all-time high. So we're excited to see, with a really good group of fillies, if she can get to the wire first and not have to look back at all.
Yeah, she's been so consistent, Terry. 13 career starts, 6 wins, 5 seconds. She is always right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're the kind that you want, right? You go into the far turn with a filly like this, and you know she's going to give it to you, the last 3/8 of a mile. And, that's what really makes it so much more enjoyable with a consistent filly like this is, every time you go to the racetrack to watch her run or you watch her on TV, you're going to get a very, very honest effort. And, there are some of them that give you that, and I think it just makes the experience of owning a filly like this even better and even overall more enjoyable.
Visiting with West Point Thoroughbreds Terry Finley here on the Equine Forum on HRRN. Terry, tell me about Parnack going in the Flower Bowl, the Win and You're In Flower Bowl later today at Saratoga.
Yeah, she finished a good second. I think she's 20-25 to 1 up there at the beginning of the meet. So she's in the Clermont barn. We bought her over in Europe, and we brought over, and she's been a very useful filly. She put it together last year. Speaking of Dylan Davis, he put her on the lead in the Flower Bowl in 2023, and just he walked the dog and he got to the wire first. And it's a tough assignment today. It's a bigger field, and there are some really, really high end types of fillies and mares in this spot, but we were all very encouraged by that race at the beginning of the meet at Saratoga, and I think we're ready. I think we're going to show up. Let's just see where that puts us at the end of the race.
And then you have some action out at Del Mar too, with the Grade 3 Torrey Pine Stakes in Soho for trainer John Sadler going to the post there. Yeah, we have a bunch of horses out there with a really good guy, Mike Talla. And, so she's going to come forward. We've been waiting for one of these groups or one of them in the group to break out. And I think she might be one. We're excited. I think she fits better in this group than I thought she would. But, she's coming into herself at the latter stages of her 3-year-old year. And, we all know that there are some challenges out there on the California circuit. But when you take a step back, it's still very good racing. It's still very exciting. And it's still a very viable place to have a horse out there and to have a string. So we are not giving up on California races overall and the industry out there in any way, shape, or form. That's for sure. Terry, we've had many conversations over the years, and I know when you started West Point Thoroughbreds, it was days like this that you dreamt of, having horses in graded stakes all over the country. And today, 5 runners represented in those West Point colors in those graded stakes. So what are days like this like for you and for the team now?
Yeah, they're still, after doing it for 33 years, Mike, and sir, as you mentioned, we weren't at this level for a long time, but it's still very exciting, and it just captivates you. You jump out of bed and you're ready to get going, and it'll be a good long day. We run 9 horses all over the country, and what are you going to say? It's like this is what we're in the business for, and we are blessed to have great partners that invest their money, and really good team that we've all built up. And I think we're a great team because we don't look back, right? And I don't say that. I say that with a smile on my face, but you can't look back in this game, right? When things don't go well, you got to turn the page and you got to move forward. And I think I say that to a lot of new owners that get in the game. Like, I can guarantee you the trainers every morning, they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to make good decisions. And when things don't work out, which, they don't work out 8 out of 10 times, right? You don't get the desired result, i.e. get to the winner's circle for, when that doesn't happen, you just got to move forward. And I think that's really helped us. That's helped us with our relationship with our trainers. It's helped us with our partners. In addition, I think it's really helped our enjoyment level because, you still have to have fun at this game. You got to really love the business and of course, the horses, but the sizzle and the partners and the characters. And you put all those things together and you certainly, you take time on a very, very good basis. And I know I do. And my team does that. When you get to a day like today, you pause and you take a deep breath and you say, man, this is what the aspect of the business that we really love and that keeps us coming back year after year.
I threw a poll question out to our listeners this morning, as I do every Saturday morning, Terry, and I asked, who is your all-time favorite Pacific Classic winner? And if I were to ask you that question, I have a feeling I probably know the answer.
You do. You do.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So actually, Jay Hovde wrote, I think 6 or 7 stories about Flightline over the course of his career. He's the first one right after the Malibu at the end of his 3-year-old year. So, I'll send it to you. If any of the listeners today, it's a compilation of a world-class writer who knows the business and the impact that Flightline had on him. And I just read it the other day. It comes up in my system every August. So, he was such a blessing, and it was such a cool ride and for all of us. And, I wish there was, it's interesting because I wish there was another Flightline or at that level in our world, in our business, of course, in our stable. But on the flip side, I don't, because he was one in, 10 million or whatever, right? You want to put the denominator at. He's a very, very special horse. He was a life changer for so many horses or for so many people in so many different aspects. And it was truly an honor to be associated with a horse like Flightline. Really was.
Well, Terry, it's an honor every time I get a chance to say hello, Terry Finley, here on the Equine Forum, and I really appreciate you taking time here this morning. All the best with those runners later today, and let's keep it rolling as we barrel toward the Breeders' Cup in November.
You got it, brother. Keep up the great work. Really enjoy listening to you guys.
All right, Terry Finley, West Point Thoroughbreds here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll get you ready for hour number 2. That is another very busy hour with some incredible content coming your way. Stay with me. I'll tell you about it next. It's the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
The Claiming Crown is returning to Churchill Downs Saturday, November 16th. Make plans to be part of the Claiming Horse version of the Breeders' Cup, showcasing 8 Claiming Crown races offering a minimum of $100,000. Each race will also offer a Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund purse supplement for registered Kentucky breds.
An invaluable goes all the way up top to win at a length and a half.
Eligibility request deadline for the Claiming Crown at Churchill Downs is Saturday, October 26th. Learn more at claimingcrown.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, it's Scott from Pentatonics. So from the beginning of our journey in music, the foundation has been music education. It's so incredibly important that we continue to show kids the importance of music in our schools, in our homes, and even in the car. Music is such a powerful expression of emotion and individuality, and we are responsible for keeping the love for music alive. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Crouppy starting to launch his bid. Bright Future far back. 110-1 for 6 furlongs. Top of the stretch for Arthur's Ride. Chased intently by Skippy Longstocking. And National Treasure still with plenty of work to do. Post time is next, and Crouppy coming fast in the center of the racetrack. A 16th to go, and Arthur's Ride still has a commanding lead. What a tremendous debut in stakes competition. The Grade 1 Whitney to Arthur's Ride. Crouppy was second. Post time finished third, and Disarm was fourth.
A tremendous win in the Whitney for Arthur's Ride. Frank Miramati had the call. You're going to hear from owner Karl Glassman as he looks ahead to tomorrow's Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup with Arthur's Ride. I'll talk to him coming up in just a couple of moments. Steve Andersen of the Daily Racing Form will join me to wrap up Hour 2 at 9:40 Eastern. And in between both of those guests, Ramiro Restrepo at 9:20 Eastern, looking ahead to Ferocious in Monday's Hopeful Stakes at Saratoga, one of the future stars of the sport of thoroughbred racing. And speaking of future stars, we are just 9 days away from the Keeneland September yearling sale. And, you know, with over 4,000 yearlings on offer at the sale, trying to find the right yearlings and pursuing yearlings from a consignor that has a track record for raising and selling runners is a huge, massive advantage. Millridge Sales is the perfect example. Their history of raising and selling racehorses is exceptional, with 39 Grade 1 winners just since 2000. And over the last 10 months alone, you look at what they've done. Millridge has been represented by 4 Grade 1 winners, with Raging Sea being the most recent, joining Preakness winner Seize the Gray, Tuz, and No Balls. So if you're going to be at the Keeneland September sale, camp out at the Millridge consignment in September. And I promise you, statistics suggest that you will give yourself the best chance for success with Grade 1 runners through Millridge. All right, Hour 2 kicks off next. I'm back with more after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3 here on HRRN. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride right up until 11 a.m. Eastern here this morning. Quick update on the poll question before I welcome Karl Glassman to the program to look ahead to tomorrow's Jockey Club Gold Cup at Saratoga. I'm asking you, who is your all-time favorite Pacific Classic winner at Del Mar? And so many different answers coming in. Beholder getting some respect. You just heard Terry Finley in the previous segment talking about Flightline. He gets a vote from Sherry on Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. And then Scott chimes in and says, Beholder, 159 and change is his favorite. And if you don't do social media and you want to email the show, you can do that. Mike at horseracingradio.net. That's what Gary has done. He says Lava Man is his all-time favorite Pacific. That's a great call. Lava Man was fantastic. And Tom in St. Louis says this is the easiest poll question ever. Borrego, the 2005 Pacific Classic winner, and his all-time favorite. Perfect Drift ran second. He said those are his 2 all-time favorite horses, and they ran 1-2, so he got the exact of that day too. So well done, Tom, in St. Louis. A lot of people are going to have their eyes on the Pacific Classic today, but so many of you are going to be dialed in to the Jockey Club Gold Cup tomorrow, and Arthur's Ride looking to continue his magical run. As he won the Whitney last time out, now he looks to capture the Jockey Club Gold Cup and join an illustrious group of winners historically, and that would be just fine with his owner, Karl Glassman, who joins me now here on HRRN. Karl, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Looking forward to seeing Arthur's Ride tomorrow.
Yeah, so are we. I got to tell you, it gets to be a little nervous time as we get closer.
That's a wonderful comment. Let's start there. I think that gets overlooked sometimes. I know when I own pieces of racehorses, my wife and I, anytime we were coming up to race day, you start to get a few butterflies, don't you?
No, absolutely. Especially, any race is important, but throw a grade 1 on it, and as important a race as the Jockey Club Gold Cup is, you definitely get nervous. It was interesting that we were at my wife Kathy and I were at the barn with Bill Mott looking at Arthur yesterday, and I wouldn't have expected this, but Bill said, on a big race day like this, he said, I'd like to have a number of runners going into the stakes race because it keeps my mind on the other runners. So somebody as accomplished as Bill Mott starts getting maybe a little nervous thinking about the race, then I guess we've got the right to be nervous as well.
Yeah, really interesting. That win in the Whitney was brilliant. Fantastic ride by Junior Alvarado, and then the way that Arthur's Ride just opened up and maintained that lead to the wire was impressive. Share your thoughts on being there, watching that, and seeing it all unfold.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. We knew that, well, there was a little bit of anxiousness because, as you know, Mike, that Arthur has run well in every race with the exception of one, and that was on Oaks Day at Churchill in a really deep, muddy, unsealed track. So I was worried about the track coming up a little bit muddy, a little off, then being in the far outside post, going into that real quick turn at 1 1/8. And, National Treasure expected him to go out with some early speed. So we were kind of thinking race setup. And when I saw Arthur, some people would say fractious in the gate, but when he's in the gate before a race, he knows it's race day, and he was ready to go. And when the gate popped and Junior took him right around the end of the turn and set him on that lead, this sounds a little bit odd. You never want to be overconfident, but when he was on the lead coming out of the first turn, and I just felt really good. When he's in front like that, got an easy lead, and with his really high cruising speed, then it was just watching the race unfold. And then coming into probably mid-far turn, saw that Skippy Longstocking was being ridden really hard, as was National Treasure, and Junior was just kind of sitting chilly on Arthur's Ride. He hadn't put his hands down and got optimistic, and as soon as he put his hands down, Arthur took off, and that cruising speed so high. So I was really confident coming down the stretch, and then saw Krupe closing a little bit and got a little nervous again, but Junior got off the horse, and he said that race was never a risk. He said, I had it as soon as I got him in position in the front turn. It gave him a blow, and it just unfolded. So I still can't believe it talking to you, replaying it. I can't tell you how many hundreds times I've watched the replay, and it's pretty miraculous.
Yeah, it certainly is. Do you expect the same, or do you hope for the same type of front-running trip later tomorrow? I keep saying today, later tomorrow.
Yeah, great question. There's a benefit to being in the 7-hole, and Junior has the ability to kind of watch the race unfold in front of him. If you're handicapping the race, which I kind of pride, or Kathy's a better handicapper than I am, but we pride ourselves in having an ability to handicap a horse race. And there's not a lot of early speed, but as you know, Mike, it all comes down to trip. If he can get over and get on that lead and kind of set the pace, that'd be a great thing. But the other side of it is Bill and Junior are both very confident that if somebody goes, that he can sit outside and just kind of rate himself. So it's always Trip, but we're confident that he can sit and wait as well.
You know, he's a graduate of the Keeneland September yearling sale, and I was just talking in the previous segment about the fact that we're 9 days away from the beginning of that sale. He was sold to Donato Lani, who was acting as the agent. And I don't know if you realize this or not, Karl, but Donato, when I first started on radio 21 years ago, we would set up at the racing office at Keeneland when I was learning from my mentor and my former partner and co-host, Pete Koulis, who is no longer with us. But Donato would join us on this program during Keeneland, and he would help handicap some of the races. And I got to know Donato through the radio show, and he's somebody who is so talented and so smart and so good at picking out these horses. Now, tell me the story of how this all came together.
Well, I'll just reiterate everything you said. Donato's a master. If your listeners don't believe it, look at War Like Goddess in today's race. I mean, he picked War Like Goddess out for $35,000. And think of the money she's made. But we were fortunate enough to be introduced by Barry Eisenman down in Williston, Florida, who breaks all of our yearlings, does a great job for us, to Donato, and got to be really good friends with him. And I was... Actually, Kathy and I were driving, and he was sold. Arthur was sold in book one, and we were driving, watching the sale while we were driving. I guess shouldn't tell any police officer in Indiana that was happening, but anyway, Donato loved the horse, and he was so excited after they knocked him down for $250. Donato well enough to know that he can be expressive at times, and he was
great
word. He was very impressed that we bought him as well as we did. You fill in the blanks.
I love it, and obviously Donato had faith in him from the beginning, and you certainly did too. Tell me about the name Arthur's Ride.
Yeah, that's a great story. That my dad, Arthur was my dad. And he was just a great guy. I mean, the guy was born in 1930, started the Depression, and he was part of the greatest generation. And, that group of people, not to go off on too much of a tangent, Mike, but my dad's family was so poor in the Depression that he spent the first 2.5 years of his life being raised in a chicken coop in Omaha, Nebraska. And he just worked his tail off, kind of the American dream. He and my mom raised 5 kids. All of us are, I think, contributors to society. And my dad was getting older, and we started talking, reflecting on his life. And he kept saying, Karl, it's been a great ride. And that's where Arthur's Ride came from, that he loved sports, loved horse racing, but he didn't have a lot of time to go to the races. So I went to my grandpa taught me how to handicap, and my uncle and grandpa, and I would go to the races, and my dad really never got a chance to go. But later in life, we were able to take him to Santa Anita and then stand in the winner's circle with one of our partnership horses in Gulfstream not too long before he passed. And it was like we won the Kentucky Derby. So it was really a tribute to him. And the reason why that horse is, to your point, he was special from the beginning, that when Barry got his hands on him, he knew that he had a special horse. And it's kind of in racing, you got to always be careful, because you name horses for somebody that you really care about, and it usually goes wrong. And we just got lucky. So it's literally been a tremendous ride with Arthur.
Karl, if he ends up winning the Jockey Club Gold Cup tomorrow, there are going to be plenty of people that start talking about him as the horse to beat in the Breeders' Cup Classic in November. Could you ever imagine?
No, Mike, Keeneland is a really special place to us. And when we walked on the ground, spent a lot of time from a business perspective at Keeneland. And, I walked into Keeneland and Kathy and I thought, wouldn't it be unbelievable to actually run a horse here, And then we go to Saratoga, and, to even be in the Whitney was just such an honor. And then to win the race, and now the Jockey Gold Cup, to be in the Breeders' Cup. I remember watching the first Breeders' Cup. I was at Belmont in 1995 when Cigar won the Breeders' Cup Classic with Belmont training him. Mike, never for a second did we, first off, owning a horse was a dream, much less one of this caliber. Humbling's the only, mind-boggling, and it truly has been a wonderful ride.
What led you to make the decision, you and your wife, Kathy, to say, you know what, we want to get involved with racehorse ownership. We want to have a few of these for ourselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. That Kathy we were both born and raised in Southern California. She literally went to Arcadia High School, which is the city that Santa Anita's in. And I misspent a little bit of my youth at Hollywood Park, and just loved racing from an early age. And I've told others that on our first date, we were driving down the freeway and started talking about different things. And before we got to the restaurant, we talked about horse racing in the LA Dodgers, and I knew it was love at that point. She might not have, but I was hooked from that moment, and that was 40 years ago. So anyway, it was something that we kind of always aspired to do. And then in the mid-'90s, the company that I worked for had a corporate box at Keeneland, so we were at Keeneland entertaining. I had a really good friend who was a coworker that lived just outside Lexington and Winchester, and went to the races every day. And that environment, just being around the horses, and then ultimately, I think really what hooked us was being on the backside and seeing. See, I saw racing from the front side as a handicapper. Then I ultimately saw it more from interaction with trainers, and then to be on the backside, that it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, that really is the backbone of racing. So it was an aggregation of all of those things. And I think Kathy would tell you that I don't do things halfway. So I probably fibbed to her and told her there'd be one, and it became a lot. So
how many horses do you own now?
I think we have 28 in training and various partnerships and sole owned, and then we're breeding either in partnerships or alone 12 in for sales. So it's a big part of our life.
Well, I'll put this into perspective for you. Maybe it puts a little more pressure on for tomorrow. I don't know, but if Arthur's Ride can win the Jockey Club Gold Cup, that race is so steeped in history. Karl, he's going to join legendary horses like Gallant Fox and Whirlaway, Citation, Buck Passer, Kelso, Forgo, Affirmed. His name will now be alongside theirs as a winner of the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and that's a pretty cool thing to think about.
Like I said, it's mind-boggling. The fact that nobody has won the Whitney to Gold Cup for 30 years. I mean, the last time somebody did it was Colonial Affair. So to put those two together, and then to have your name, just like you said, listed amongst those, I mean, the greats of the game, it's truly mind-boggling. I mean, I will tell you, it's hard. I mean, he's run only 7 times. Tomorrow will be the 8th, hopefully. That he's a good horse. I mean, he's a special horse. He really is. I'm not going to say that he belongs on the list with those, but he certainly has earned his way.
Well, Karl, we tried to coordinate this conversation. We had talked about having Kathy join you and the two of you appearing on the show together, but Kathy sent me a message and said, Karl can do it. He has a voice for radio, and I have to agree. And I don't like when people come on the show and have a better radio voice than me. But, Karl, if you ever want another gig, let me know.
It's going to have to be radio because my mom used to tease me that I have a voice and a face for radio. So, but yeah, Kathy doesn't. She manages the horses, but she doesn't like the PR side of things like this. But I will tell you that when you sent the text, which we really appreciate, we have an obligation. All of us have an obligation to the sport, and Mike, anything that we can do to further the game, Kathy and I are both all in. It's important to us.
Well, Karl, it's been a delight to hear your story and to talk about Arthur's Ride with you this morning. All the best tomorrow and going forward, not just with Arthur, but with all the horses that you have in your stable. Really appreciate it, and we will definitely talk again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you. Very much appreciate it, Mike.
All right, owner Karl Glassman, he and his wife Kathy involved with Arthur's Ride going in tomorrow's Jockey Club Gold Cup. Fantastic story, and when you hear the story behind the name and you hear Karl's personal story of how he got started and got hooked on racing, you can't help but cheer for them. And then you throw in Bill Mott and Jockey Junior Alvarado, who was one of the truly great guys in the sport of thoroughbred racing. And this is a team that's easy to root for. And if he wins the Jockey Club Gold Cup tomorrow, Arthur's Ride very well could be the horse to beat in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's going to get talked about as one of the horses to beat, but he might be the horse to beat when they get to Delmar in early November. My thanks to Karl for taking the time here this morning. When I come back, we'll turn our attention to one of the future stars in the sport of thoroughbred racing. That is Ferocious, who goes in Monday's Hopeful Stakes. You'll hear from his owner, Ramiro Restrepo, coming up next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
But it's Shifty holding on here from Bullet, who's flat down the outside, ready for Candy, and will reign for Rafael Hernandez is steaming home out wide. Over on the inside, Shotgun Wedding, ready for Candy, trying to pick up Shifty, who's clear. Shifty's not stopping, and Shifty and Sahin Savachi rocketing on to win the Catch a Glimpse.
Shifty, the daughter of Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, taking the Catch a Glimpse Stakes at Woodbine for owners DJ Stable, trainer Mark Cassie, and jockey Sahin Savachi. That victory makes her your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro. Shifty was one of 3 juvenile winners from Medaglia d'Oro over the weekend, which also included East Avenue, a debut winner at Ellis Park, who matched Shifty's 85 buyer, and Papiamento at Saratoga. Learn more about Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns with afternoon racing on Thursdays and Saturdays and a new late afternoon post of 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. Back is our popular 12% takeout pick 5, now offered twice daily. Join us for our biggest day of the season on August 10th at 1 p.m. for Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, featuring 7 stakes races, including the Grade 1 Arlington Million. And then September 7th, we'll wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
El Prestigio has a 4-length lead suddenly as they reach the top of the stretch. Ferocious hugging the rail and trying to chase him down. Angles out now with good strides in second. And these two will come to the 8th pole together, and Ferocious is gathering serious momentum as Preeter has surfaced from well out of it. Ferocious takes off through the stretch. What an effort. It was expected, and he sure delivered. Ferocious jogs. Tight photo between Preeter and El Prestigio. Behind them, Antietam was battling it out with Contrabandist. But the story here is the first-time starter, Ferocious.
Yeah, certainly living up to his name, didn't he? Ferocious with that 7 3/4 length victory in his debut at Saratoga. That coming on August 3rd. Frank Miramati had the call for you there. Ferocious is one of the budding stars in thoroughbred racing, but as his connections will tell you, it is just one race. And yeah, it was the race they were looking for. Now he has to back up the hype Monday at Saratoga in the Grade 1 hopeful. And I welcome Ramiro Restrepo to the program. Ramiro, happy to have you aboard, my friend.
Hey, Mike, thanks for the invite, and that was a nice intro, man. That call was pretty cool to live, so thanks for replaying it.
How good was that debut?
Man, it was you being there as a fan and myself standing there watching it. You see him break a little off and have to rush up. You're kind of like, geez, this is not what was planned. But to see him sit in that pocket and be right up on the speed, and when El Prestigio kind of spurted up a couple lengths, you're like, what's going to happen here? And Javi tipped him out, and just when he just lowered himself and just took off, it was quite a special thing to watch. Like you said, it is just one race, but when you have that kind of expectation coming out of a 2-year-old sale, it's the closest thing to like an NFL GM saying, with the first pick in the NFL draft, we select Ferocious. So it puts a little bit of a target on you, but for him to deliver at least in that race was nice to see. I know there was a lot of well-meant colts in there, so the challenges and the expectations are going to grow from the public and the media and the expectations. But luckily he doesn't watch TV and he doesn't read the blood horse of the TDN. So Ferocious is chilling and doing well since the race and just taking it a race at a time.
Yeah, he was well meant from the beginning. A $1.3 million purchase at the 2-year-old in training sale in Ocala. What was it that he showed in that sale that justified that lofty price?
Wow, Mike. Well, at those sales, people in my position, when you're a bloodstock agent, it's the closest thing to being like a GM or like a director of player personnel, right? You're going there, you're scouting these horses, you're watching them do their 40-yard dash, their breeze, and you're going back there to pseudo-interview them and kind of look them over. And anyone could see that, physically he was a beautiful animal. He was like that prototypical 6'4", 230 quarterback who did all the drills at the combine. So big pedigree on the female family, John Mont, 4 generations, and Flatter, who hasn't been with us for a few years. He passed, but, was a sire of several top-class runners, Upstart, Flat Out, Kobe's Back, Search Results. I mean, the list goes on. So I was really appreciative of that. The challenge at that point when a colt performs like that in his workout and looks the way that he looks and has a little pedigree to back it up, it's going to be more of a dollar amount than you being some genius that discovered, Eureka Gold somewhere. It's easy for me to put my ego aside to say that I discovered something out of the blue. It was a horse that a lot of people were on at the sale. It was a competitive bidding process to try to purchase the colt, but it's a matter of want and, putting yourself on the line and being brave enough to say, look, I can band together a bunch of fellas and we're all going to piece this thing together and, take a big swing on a price like that. You have to be really respectful of that dollar amount and be thankful for Jose at JR Ranch, the boys at High Step Racing, Gustavo himself, and some of my partners back home in Miami that all decided to have that kind of faith in you to take that kind of swing.
When you were involved with Mage, of course, the Kentucky Derby winner from last year, he comes out of the Fasig-Tipton 2-year-old in training sale, sells for $290,000. It was a different scenario. What's different about handling these expectations with a $1.3 million sale horse as opposed to Mage? Not that $290,000 was cheap, it just wasn't $1.3 million. What's different about handling those expectations?
Sure. I mean, when you swing at that level, Mike, you're really exposing yourself the vulnerability that if you miss on a swing like that, the egg on your face is gigantic, and you've seen it. I mean, anyone that reads the racing form can see the price points on horses that are purchased, and if they're running for $8 and $25, and they were purchased for high 6 or 7 figures, I mean, it's an intense miss, So there definitely is like that, the added pressure on the team that's making that decision, but you have to have that kind of faith in yourself that what you're seeing lives up to the billing. I mean, remember, I think we're of the same age, man. You remember when it was Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf? Like, the world was split. Like, who's yes. deserving of the number 1 pick? You remember? And I was a Ryan Leaf guy. Like, I loved Ryan Leaf in college. So thank God I chose to do horse racing and not be an NFL GM, because I would have drafted Ryan Louise and I'd be out of a job. But, the expectations are there, but the ride that Mage took us on as far as participating in the Triple Crown, the Haskell, the Travers, the ups and the downs, the interviews, the training regimen, the challenges, trying to keep a horse in top form, all those things, that's the only way that you can grow is through experience and being put through these scenarios. Being present and just taking it all in and trusting your gut, it's led us to do some good things in this business, and you just have to have that kind of faith. At this juncture, the horse doesn't know how much he costs, Mike. You know what I mean? And we're not telling him, in English, hey pal, you got to run to your price point. But he's made it very easy on us since the day we bought him. He's done everything right. The way he acts, he's a classy individual. He's very smart, takes everything in stride. He handled the big Whitney Day, very well. So it seems at this moment in time that, we selected a horse at that level that, could possibly have a big future, but you just have to let these horses develop, man. I've been very fortunate to been around the game since I was a child. I've read all the almanacs you can think of since the mid-'80s, and I know the ups and downs and the rides. Go look at PPs, man. Like, I know people want to justify the American Pharaoh that rattle off 6, 7, 8 races in a row, and heck, who knows? Maybe this colt can be it, but I'm not going to put that pressure on this horse. Neither is Gustavo or the partners. 1% of the full crop wins these kind of races, these graded stakes races. 3% even participate in them. So it's a blessing to be here. It's awesome to have great partners that believe in you, and we just enjoy the ride, brother. You just got to enjoy the ride and be present and see where this can go, one race at a time, and just hopefully he has an amazing career and runs in some pretty big races along the line, and hopefully he gets his fair share of victories.
What has he shown you since that maiden win coming into the hopeful that leads you to believe he's sitting on another big race?
Well, he hasn't missed a beat. Sometimes after a really big effort like that, there'll be a little bit of a regression. Maybe they lose weight, their energy is down, they're not eating enough, or how they once were. Maybe they're a little sour in their training. Those are like the general telltale signs that, maybe the race hit him a little bit too much between the eyes. But on the contrary, he only had 6 works coming into the race, so he got a lot out of the race. He definitely went through several lessons with the tardy start and having to sit inside, and then being asked to catch and pass a horse. So all the lessons that you could think of were there, and he's responded. He's had 2 breezes in very typical Gustavo fashion that, you don't really ask a crazy time, but he's handled them very well and looks the part, is acting how he did since we've had him. He hasn't showed any negative signs. So, between the figures and how the horse is acting, it seems like he belongs in this kind of race. But I know that there's a lot of well-met individuals in the race. There's a lot of horses with a lot of expectations as well, a lot of horses with other lofty price points and from very well-known connections that have had tons of success in this business. So I believe he deserves a shot to be in the gate, and, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, the appropriately named Hopeful Stakes, that Grade 1 coming up on Monday, closing day at Saratoga, 7/8 of a mile, post time 5:43 Eastern as race number 10. And as they say, hope springs eternal when you have a good 2-year-old in the barn, and Ramiro and his team certainly do. Ramiro, all the best, my friend. Good luck in the Hopeful and beyond, not just with Ferocious, but with all your runners. Let's keep it rolling, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me on the show, man. Talk soon.
All the best. Ramiro Restrepo here on HRRN. Ferocious is tough. He, on paper, is the horse to beat. He's 8-5, morning line favorite in that race on Monday. He's the horse to beat. And the encouraging thing is you heard Ramiro say he hasn't missed a beat. He hasn't missed a step since that last win, that maiden win. I liked what he had to say, too, about not putting the pressure of expectations on Ferocious. And I often wonder if horses can sense that. When an owner spends a lot of money on a horse and the horse looks like he could be any kind at first asking, and the owner or the trainer starts to kind of talk about, okay, yeah, this horse is really good, and they start to build him up. And I wonder if that somehow comes through to the horse. Crazy to think about, but do horses feel the pressure that their human counterparts would put on them if they were doing so? I was thinking about that when he answered that question. He made that comment. He's not going to put that kind of pressure on Ferocious. They're going to take it one step at a time, one race at a time. And if he wins by 10 lengths today, so be it. That's fantastic. It just continues to show how talented this horse really is. But let's face it, he's run one race, and it was a special race, and it was a really good race, an exceptional race, but it was one race. And I think that's where Ramiro was going with that. He knows what being around a good horse is all about. Mage winning the Kentucky Derby last year, he learned a lot with Mage. And now he's hoping that Ferocious can take him back to that special place at Churchill Downs on the first Saturday in May. But again, only one race. He's a one-time winner. He beat maidens. Now he has to come back and prove that that wasn't a fluke and that he's worthy of that lofty sale price and everything else that they thought they knew about this horse from the beginning. Great stuff from Ramiro. But my thanks to him for being with me here this morning. When I come back, we will turn our attention westward. Steve Andersen of Daily Racing Forum will talk all things Pacific Classic. That's next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
In Virginia, horses create jobs. Just ask equine veterinarian Dr. Lindsay East.
Horses really do make up a big part of our economy. There's barns all over the place. You have little kids that take riding lessons. You have people that go on trail rides, shopping at tack stores and feed stores, farriers that come and do horses' feet. There are so many jobs, whether it's lay workers or professionals, that impact the economy.
Virginia's economy wins with horses.
In 1993, Dr. John West showed that EIPH occurs during exercise when blood vessels in the lungs rupture. This is due to stress caused by high blood pressure on the inside of the vessels and strong suction forces on the outside. Only flare strips and Lasix, used together or alone, have been clinically proven to reduce EIPH. Lasix works by reducing the high internal pressures, and flare strips work by reducing the suction forces on the outside. See the science at flarestrips.com.
It's time to go down the road to the Breeders' Cup on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
They turn for home in the Pacific Classic, and it's Beholder. Gary Stevens just shakes the reins at her, and Beholder is opening up. up on them. Almost impossible to believe. She's turned this into an exercise gallop. Beholder is absolutely poetry in motion. Beholder and Gary Stevens didn't win it. They romped in the Pacific Classic. Catch a Flight second, then came Red Vine Opportunity, Imperative behind that, then Hard Aces, Class Leader, Bail Out Bobby, Bayern, and Midnight Storm was last.
Trevor Denman with the call. Hard to forget that performance by Beholder back in 2015, beating the boys in the Pacific Classic. She is the only female ever to do that. We thought we were going to have the opportunity to see another leading lady take on the boys this afternoon, but Adair Manor scratching after coming out of her gallop on Thursday, tying up with some cramping, if you will. She is not going to go to the post this afternoon, but we still have a very contentious race to talk about. And I'm asking you the poll question this morning to look back on your all-time favorite winners of the Pacific Classic. Who is your all-time favorite winner? And Flightline getting a lot of respect, as you might think that he would. You can chime in on our social media pages, and if you don't do social media, you can email the show, and that's what Kim in Burleson, Texas has done. She says, love this trivia question. I liked Candy Ride when Julie Crone rode him to a record-setting performance in 2003. Kim, appreciate the reply. King says Came Home is his favorite winner of the Pacific Classic because he watched it with Chris McCarron at a horse show in Del Mar and said that if he knew that Came Home was going to run like that, he probably would have waited to retire. Great email, King. Appreciate the story. Keep those responses coming throughout the program, and I'll try to update them before we wrap things up at 11 a.m. Eastern. Steve Andersen is with the Daily Racing Form, and he is with us now live from Southern California. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. How are things today? I want to say hi to the lady in Burleson, Texas, because I grew up not too far from there in north of Dallas, so that caught my attention just a moment ago.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Yep. So that's kind of cool to hear. You've got listeners all across the United States. It's kind of fun to hear where people are listening from as well.
Yeah, it's always amazing. Every once in a while, I'll throw that out there on social media or on the show and ask people to let us know where they're tuned into the program and how they're listening. And it blows my mind. Steve, you're right. The responses from all over the country and even around the world, quite special here on the Equine Forum and HRN, and we appreciate every single one of those listeners. Steve, if I were to ask you what your most memorable winner or your favorite winner of the Pacific Classic has been all time, who would it be?
We don't have time. And we'd be here till about noon, I think. No, in all seriousness, it is a rather historic race considering it's a young race per se. It's only 34 years old. I happened to be a fan at the inaugural running in 1991 when Best Pal won it, and that was a very, very electric moment to see the response that he got when he came back that day. California Chrome and Beholder in 2016 and 2015 are two that were very memorable. Flightline, one of your listeners mentioned him, and I agree. That is pretty remarkable to see what he did just 2 years ago this weekend. Except for the fact that he was so far in front, and it wasn't much of a horse race. It was just a procession. It was really, really kind of a fascinating race. But I would nominate Beholder and California Chrome in more recent times as two of my favorite runnings. And we're certainly have seen quite a few really nice ones. Lava Man, the response that he got in 2006 when he won was electric. That was a good one. I hope that today's race is remembered in time favorably, because going into it, here we are 11 hours before the race. It's a measure of skepticism after we've lost this mare to a setback. Then she'll be back in action this fall, of course. But this group that remains have a lot to prove. And we may look back on this race in 30 or 60 days and go, it turned out to be a better race than we thought it was on Labor Day Saturday.
Yeah, the favorite now likely to be Dr. Venkman. And I mentioned earlier, for fans of Ghostbusters, they'll appreciate that name. He was 5-2 second choice behind Adair Manor, and now he will likely go postward as the favorite. Tell me more about Dr. Venkman, the horse.
Well, Dr. Venkman is a lot more serious than his namesake was in the film. He really an electric start to his career. He was a late runner the summer of his 3-year-old season with a couple of very promising sprint wins. He postponed my retirement when he was beaten second by a head in the Perryville at Keeneland last October, and They'd hoped to run him in the Malibu last winter at Santa Anita, but that didn't work out. Instead, he came back and started his career in 1st of June. And it was a very gutty win in the San Diego Handicap, for lack of a better word. It was a track that played very favorable to horses that were near the front throughout those races in late July at Del Mar, maybe just a little bit more so than now. But he won well, and he did handle the mile in the 16th, and that's great. Except now he's got to go another 330 yards, and you do have to question whether or not he'll be well placed on the turn, well placed in early stretch, but face a challenge through the final furlong that might be a little bit too far for him. So I'm a little skeptical of him, but I respect his chances quite a bit. I do think that there's a lot there. To me, he's a Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile horse. Let's see what he does today.
He's a son of Ghost Sapper, so if you're wondering where the tie-in is there you have it. The son of Ghost Sapper, Dr. Venkman, likely to be the favorite in the Pacific Classic. By the way, race 10, 9:13 Eastern, 6:13 locally on the West Coast. If it isn't Dr. Venkman, who else should we be keeping an eye on in there?
It's going to be There Goes Harvard.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You look at his form and you think, wait a minute, he ran 4th in the Shoemaker in his first start in 15 months, and he came back and he ran 9th last month in the Eddie Reed. What the heck is there to like about that guy? Well, he finished well in the Shoemaker in a Grade 1 for his first start in more than a year, and he did run behind Johannes and De Jour, who are two very fine turf milers. Go back and if you have a chance today, go back and watch the stretch run of the Eddie Reed Stakes, and it's one of those hair-pulling, scream at the top of your lungs stretch runs in which this horse is just boxed in. He can't get it. Doesn't have the best trip in the world. I think he still has a lot of upswing on him. They debated whether to run in this race or run in the Del Mar Handicap today. He can get 1.25 miles on dirt. He showed that in the Hollywood Gold Cup 2 years ago at Santa Anita. He's worked steadily through the month of August. He's going to be a bit of a price, but he's going to be a bit of a price, as I mentioned just a moment ago, in an open race. And I think he's worth a try at that price because of that. You want to get down to it a little bit. El Miracolo from Monmouth Park's Island 2 weeks ago, he certainly can run well. It wouldn't surprise me if Cantonar is also close at the wire. But a few of the others, I would be surprised if they perform well. Full Serrano might develop into a very good horse. He won a very nice allowance race in his United States debut. But again, he was running on a track that was a good place to be, was out front. I want to take a chance with There Goes Harvard because of this scratch. I think it really changes the things. And I wonder if he might come along here at the end and pick up a few runners and hit the first three. There Goes Harvard.
I know you didn't mention his name, but what are the chances that Bob Baffert still finds a way to get to the winner's circle in here with Reincarnate?
Well, he was in the Kentucky Derby last year. Reincarnate was 13th behind Mage, 3rd in the Arkansas Derby in the build-up to that. Since then, he's won only once in 7 starts, which was the Los Al Derby, which wasn't a very good race that year. He didn't really show much in his last start when he was well beaten second in the Cougar. Again, he was in the Hollywood Gold Cup. He'll get the 1.25 miles. It's just how long will it take? He very easily could be in the first 3 because he was 3rd in the San Diego Handicap and second to his stablemate, Mr. Fisk, in the Hollywood Gold Cup. 1.25 miles won't be an issue for him. I'm just wondering if he's maybe just not quite as good as some of the other runners in this race. He'll be well placed throughout. Top 3 possible, but I prefer There Goes Harvard.
And Juan Hernandez, after not going to the post now with a Dare Manor after that scratch, is now going to ride Reincarnate. Is that correct?
A double jock mount in that case, because the call went to Kimura. So
yep.
To do that, you've got to pay for it. So Reincarnate will have a jockey in the room. They'll be rooting for him just as much. So it's a different approach to take. Most people won't do that, but Hernandez has become, in the last 2 years, with Flavian Pratt riding in the East now, the number 1 rider for the Baffert stable, and in that regard, benefits from a close relationship with the trainer.
Talking with Steve Andersen at the Daily Racing Forum live from Southern California on this Pacific Classic day. Steve, outside of the Pacific Classic, what are some of the other highlights and big-name horses that folks can look forward to seeing at Del Mar this afternoon?
Well, it'll be fun to see what Baffert's Hope Road can do in the small stake, the grade 3 Torrey Pine. She'll be odds on to beat just 6 rivals in that 1 mile race for 3-year-old fillies. The last 3 races of the day are rather fascinating. The the Pacific Classics is the 10th of 11 races. The 9th is the Green Flash handicap. Very open field of 12 runners. Joni Padres, who drew post 11, is looked upon. I consider him to be a horse to consider. It's a wide open race. If you're betting to pick 3, you're either going to need to be very sharp with your selection or take a lot of picks. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joni Padres runs well. The final race of the day is the Del Mar Mile, which I think is arguably one of the better betting races of the day. Baffert's De Jour, who I mentioned just a moment ago, is going to be the morning line favorite. I would expect a big race from First Piece, trained by Mark Glatt, who ran very well to win the restricted Wicker Stakes back in late July at Del Mar, and I think it was July 21st. If you're looking for a long shot who can come from off the pace, Astronomer, who drew number 1, who drew post 1, was second in that race. He was also, I think, 4th in the San Fran Mile. He I think, has a chance to run well. So it's one of those races where De Jour should win, but who will run second? Could it be Astronomer or a long shot such as Astronomer, or even Lamas from up north, who did win the SF Mile, or a more logical horse in second choice First Piece? So if you concede the race to De Jour, it's time to start worrying about the exact and the trifecta. And I think Astronomer and Lamas are 2 horses that would belong in that equation.
If you want to keep up with racing in Southern California, nobody better than Steve Andersen. You can follow him on X, formerly Twitter, at DRF Andersen. That's ANDERSEN. Steve, you sent out a tweet yesterday about jockey Emily Ellingwood, who turned 30 on Thursday and had a very unique celebration yesterday. Tell me about that.
Well, it was on Thursday when she turned 30. She rode a winner for John Sadler in the middle of the program. It was kind of a unique deal. She doesn't ride a whole lot of races. Emily is closely allied with trainer Ryan Hansen, and she works for him in the mornings and also a little bit for Sadler. And she's also closely allied with Dutrow, Richard Dutrow, when he's out here. In fact, she was the regular exercise rider for White Aberrio in the build-up to the Breeders' Cup last year. And it's also looking after his Masterpiece, a veteran horse who runs in the Del Mar Handicap today. So she works quite a bit in the mornings and rides occasionally in the afternoons. This was her second winner of the year, and so she had kind of a fun Thursday. Turned 30 years old and had a winner on the same day. You don't see too many riders who, number one, ride on their birthdays, and secondly, have the success to go to the winner's circle too. So it's kind of a unique situation for her.
Yeah, really neat story. Steve, before I let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot with this next question, only because I know you can handle it. As we wind down this 2024 Del Mar race meet, what are some of your personal highlights from what we've seen over the past 5 or 6 weeks or so?
Well, we've seen Hernandez really just continue his domination in the jockey's room, and that's been, easy to expect. I'm still waiting for a highlight. Maybe it'll be today. Maybe we'll see something next weekend in the Futurity or the Debutante, the 2 of the Grade 1 races that are part of the closing weekend of the season. But I'm still expecting something that'll happen today that'll give you the wow factor. I haven't seen a whole lot of performances through the season so far that make me wonder how these runners will do. Let's say, for example, in the Breeders' Cup. Let's remember Flightline at Keeneland was the last California-based Breeders' Cup winner. There were none last year. So California as a collective has fallen off a little bit in regards to being able to produce, leading runners on the biggest day in the nation. So this is time now when maybe we'll see something. This today, or like I said, next weekend. And let's just wait and see how some of this goes.
Well, Steve, enjoy the day. I know it's going to be a lot of fun to be there and be part of it, and you've done this for many years, and you do it very well. So I appreciate the visit here this morning. Great stuff, and we will definitely catch up again soon.
Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, guys.
You too. Steve Andersen here on HRRN. When I come back, it is time for this month's Kentucky Bred Update and a look at a few historical dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you heard of radon?
Is that a gas?
Is it something that comes up out the ground or something?
It's like poison gas. Something dangerous that you're supposed to check on to make sure it's not in your home.
Now it's your turn. Answer true or false. Radon is a radioactive gas. True, radon is a radioactive gas. True or false? The Office of the Surgeon General recommends that all homes be tested for radon. True, your home should be tested.
I didn't know that, no.
True or false, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. True.
True, I didn't know that.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. Answer true or false. Homes with radon problems can be fixed. True. Homes with radon problems can be fixed.
So what do you do about it? I'm going to dial the number and call.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
If I don't take care of it, nobody else will.
Keep your family safe from radon. Call now.
1-800-SOS-RADON. Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. Can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us. Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Learn how you can help first responders by texting BRAVE to 24365.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, you can win big in the bluegrass. You can breed and race in Kentucky, and you're going to be successful because purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high with more than $192 million paid out to horsemen in 2023, including $48 million in Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Funds. Kentucky's average purse per race of $108,000 outpaces all other leading racing jurisdictions, including Arkansas, New York, California, and Florida. And with some of the most lucrative purses in the nation, Kentucky's racetracks offer horsemen the ultimate opportunity to win big. This year's Kentucky Downs meet features average daily purses of, how about this, $5 million. Average daily purses of $5 million. That's the richest and the richest maiden purses in the world at $170,000. And the track has an average field size of 10.42, which is tops in North America. Churchill Downs' upcoming 14-day September meet will feature 11 stakes worth more than $3.57 million. Additionally, you have over $200 million that has been distributed to Kentucky breeders since 2006. And with purse money soaring, the KBIF contributing $16.2 million to eligible breeders, the fullest fields in the country and higher that are higher than New York, Florida, and California. And you have quality racing year-round at the 5 racetracks. There is absolutely no better time to breed and race in the bluegrass. So be sure to find your Kentucky bred at the Keeneland September yearling sale, September 9th to the 21st. Kentucky breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win. For more information on racing and breeding in Kentucky, you can visit KentuckyBreds.com. Yeah, what an incredible race meet coming up at Kentucky Downs. Or I shouldn't even say coming up because it's already underway. Fantastic day of racing, too. We've been talking about that throughout the show. Just a quick historical date in racing history. It was on this day in 1955 in an East versus West showdown that Nashua, ridden by Eddie Arcaro, went wire-to-wire to defeat Swaps, who was ridden by Bill Shoemaker in a match race at Washington Park. And also on this day in 1985, jockey Angel Cordero Jr., at the age of 42, became the third rider in history behind Bill Shoemaker and Lafitte Pincay Jr. to have his mounts earn $100 million while riding at Belmont Park. Pretty cool stuff. Busy show, huh? Fun 2 hours. Hour 3 coming up next. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. But if you're just tuning in, you missed Dylan Davis in the first hour of the program. You missed Terry Finley. Karl Glassman was with me at 9 o'clock talking about Arthur's Ride. Ramiro Restrepo talking about Ferocious was with me at 9:20. And in the previous segment, Steve Andersen had a great look ahead to today's Pacific Classic and some of the other notable storylines on that program this afternoon. 2 hours down, 1 to go. Stay with me. Hour 3 loaded with more special content. And if your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on Sirius 162, XM 207, in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, or you can stream us live right now on our website, horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is coming up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Nothing between those two with 3/16 to go. And it is so many ways a narrow lead. Team Pauline continues to fight on second. Then farther back, it's Sweet Shirley May third. And Seasoned Warrior fourth. Not today for Team Pauline. The day belongs to So Many Ways. In the spinaway.
Shanghai Bobby in front and getting clear here. Shanghai Bobby's in front by 4. Then Burn Identity and Fortify, followed by Overanalyze. They come down for the wire, and it is Shanghai Bobby to win the hopeful.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
It's Lawyer Ron fully extended. Carlin running his heart out today. Down to the finish. Lawyer Ron. Carlin coming with those giant strides to defeat Lawyer Ron. Carlin wins by a head in an exhilarating stretch run here, defeating Lawyer Ron in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And take a good look at this, because you're not going to see this too often, maybe never again. Flight line, 20 lengths clear. Flavion Pratt takes a hold and canters in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on HRRN. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along for the final hour of the program here this morning, which begins momentarily with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek will be with me to do the honors there. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, coming your way at 10:20. Dale and Tim will be with me to wrap up the show in the final segment. I ask, they answer at 10:30 Eastern. So plenty of things to get to. But if you did miss any portion of the first 2 hours of the program, including that really entertaining visit with jockey Dylan Davis in the first hour of the show, all you have to do is head back to our website, horseracingradio.net, and you can listen to the podcast there whenever you have some time, and you can do that too on every podcast platform. And remember to follow us on social media at HRRN on X, formerly Twitter, and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Hour 3 begins right now, and it begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. And as I mentioned, Joe Kristufek is here. Joe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing really well, my friend. Excited to talk about the big day at Kentucky Downs. I've been talking a lot about the racing at Saratoga and, of course, Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar. Kentucky Downs, what a program that is this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The purses keep skyrocketing every year, almost
beyond a reasonable amount, to tell you the truth. Got a European influence now in some of these races, which honestly, to me, Mike, makes them a little bit less exciting to handicap. I like to try to take as many variables out of the equation as possible. I like to bet on horses that I have a familiarity with, even if they race in New York or California or circuits that I don't follow all that closely. You know, I can go back and watch the replays, and I have some points of comparison. But the quality's gotten better. You can't argue with the size of the fields. You can't argue with the bettability of these races. And, you know, I always tell people it's tough to string 4 or 5 winners in a multi-race sequence. I like to really focus on betting horses that I like, because you're going to get square prices. Even on these favorites, you're getting 7-2, 4-1, and you're going to get 8, 10, 12, 15-1 on a lot of other horses that you like. And I know for the triple play today, I focused on 3 horses that I think will all offer some pretty good value.
Yeah, and those come in races 1, 3, and 6. We're going to talk about those. Of course, the main event, there are several great stakes on the program at Kentucky Downs today, but the main event is that 1 mile and 5/16 Grade 3 Nashville Derby, which is offering a purse of $3.1 million. That's race number 8. We're not going to talk about that race in the triple play here, Joe, but just for people that are hearing those numbers, $3.1 million for the Nashville Derby. Put that into perspective. You said sometimes the purses are so high at Kentucky Downs that it seems even unreasonable, but $3.1 million, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I tell you what, I wish they had a horse running in the race.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I think we're going to have Johnny's Fireball. We enter Monday, but I think we're going to run in a $200,000 allowance race next Saturday. So, you know, tough to argue from an owner's perspective with the size of the purses.
Yeah.
You know, like I mentioned earlier, Mike, you're getting some European influence in some of these races now, and I'm guessing if the purses remain where they are or even get a little bit bigger, you know, Kentucky Downs only runs a couple handfuls of days during the course of the year, and that's why the purses are so big with the money that gets infused into them. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from here, but keeps getting better and better quality-wise, purse-wise, and you know, and it just goes to show you start luring horses from overseas for these races, it becomes more global.
All right, let's kick off the triple play. We begin with race number 1. All of these are turf races, so we don't have to worry about that. But this one is at 1 mile on the grass, maiden special weight event, purse of $170,000. Who wins the first race at Kentucky Downs today?
Yeah, I like a horse quite a bit in here, and I think the horse is 6-1 in the morning line. Graham Motion, who should be a force at this meet, has got a horse by the name of Smartless, who was bet down to favoritism, pretty strong favoritism on debut at Colonial, and was compromised from the word go. If you go back and watch that replay, and I like to say that a lot because I think it's one of the few advantages that you really do have if you do your homework, is to go back and watch replays. The horse was compromised at the start, had a bunch of traffic trouble. Once the horse finally got in the clear, Mike, absolutely flew home, finished second behind a good winner, and I think we'll love that long stretch at Kentucky Downs. Don't know if 6-1 is going to happen. I'm not the only one that watches replays, and the horse was bet down on debut. So Smartless for me in the opener. You know, if I could get 3-1, 7-2, I'd probably be okay with that.
Yeah, Smartest, a son of Caraconte, and we know that Caraconte could handle the grass no problem. He's out of a she is out of a Smart Strike mare. So grass all the way for Joe's top pick in race number 1, and that is number 2, Smartest, who does offer value. I know you're also intrigued by number 5, Wonderland, from the barn of Mark Cassie, owned by DJ Stable. Jose Ortiz is aboard. Here's a horse that, much like your top pick, came flying at the end of her debut race. That came at Saratoga on August 15th.
Yeah, another horse that was compromised, kind of hopped out of the starting gate, was compromised from the word go, ran a pretty good fourth. You know, those Saratoga running lines are going to be strong from the turf there to the turf at Kentucky Downs based on, you know, the who's who of trainers that are stabled there. That's one that's going to be a lot more obvious on paper to the betting public. maybe there's a chance that horse gets bet down. Cassie has had an incredible year, not only in the States, but at Woodbine with his 2-year-old, just absolutely incredible. So that horse will get bet down. It's a must-use, but that'll hopefully inflate the price on Smartest a little bit.
Okay, second leg you've selected for our listeners in the triple play today is race number 3. That one's 6.5 furlongs on the lawn. It's an allowance race, purse of $220,000. Who wins that one?
Yeah, I mean, for me in that race, there's a lot of different ways you could go, Mike, but I'm going to go to a bomb in here. I like the number 8 Front Run the Fed. This is the horse, if you look at the past performances, has run at Kentucky Downs 4 times, has only 1 second to show for it, but ran, I believe, only a length and a half off the win in a graded stake there last year. This is a horse that's been compromised by a lot of tough trips because he's a deep out the back closer who often finds himself compromised by, getting run off his feet or traffic scenarios. But he's proven at Kentucky Downs, comes into this race off a good performance last out, takes a drop in class from the levels he's been racing at Kentucky Downs in the past. And this is a horse that absolutely loves that elongated stretch. A veteran, I think he's an 8-year-old now, but, he's 20-1 in the morning line, and I think you're going to get every bit close to that. I would say 12-1 would probably be my floor on him, but I wanted to throw a bomb at you. Bombs win a lot of Kentucky Downs. I think one of the major things that you're looking for when you're handicapping these races is horses that have had previous success on this turf course because of its quirkiness. So Front Run the Fed for me. There's some other obvious contenders in here, but, if you're playing tries and supers and even multi-race wagers, I would certainly think twice about not including him.
Yeah, I love it. We'll see if Front Run the Fed can pull off a bit of a shocker in that third race for Joe Kristufek. Again, you can bet these races at TwinSpires. There is no specific TwinSpires triple play wager when you go to the website or where you log into the app, whatever the case might be. However, you can play all 3 of these races any way you like with the information that Joe is passing along to you here this morning. Joe, one of the intriguing horses in this third race, to me, outside of your top pick and the case you just made for Front Run the Fed, is number 4, Arrest Me Red, Wesley Ward teaming up with Frankie Dettori at Kentucky Downs. Does it get any better than that?
Well, not really. I mean, from an overall success standpoint, especially Wesley Ward at Kentucky Downs, because we know that he, Mike Maker, they really, really point to this lucrative meet. This horse, was disappointing Kentucky Derby weekend, but, really bounced back with a big effort last time, lost to a long shot, ran a winning race that day. I believe Charco was the horse that beat him. Coming into this race the right way, I don't think the distance is going to be detrimental. And then the other one that I would use, Mike, would be Mischievous Rogue, who has had success at Kentucky Downs, and that last win at Hawthorne was visually impressive. This is a horse that always runs his race, might be arguably in the best form of his career. Those are going to be 2 of the shorter prices in the field, but again, if you use them with Front Run the Fed and you're able to catch the exact top and or bottom, the payout is still going to be incredible.
All right, one final leg. That is race number 6. Post time 4:07 Eastern, so 3:07 local time in the Nashville area, just north of Nashville, and 1 o'clock on the West Coast. This race is 6 furlongs on the turf course, purse of $200,000. It is an allowance race. How'd you see race number 6 at Kentucky Downs?
Yeah, there's a couple of horses I like in here pretty equally, and the Joe Sharp horse. Throw that name at me again, Mike, because it's
off-ramp,
and the horse drawn to the outside, the Mott, are the
Agra.
2 that I like.
Yeah,
I like those 2 equally, but the Joe Sharp horse, the off-ramp horse, is going to be a much better price. I remember when that race was run at Ellis last time, and that horse was entered. I didn't really know what to do with the horse because most of the form was dirt. Horse got an inside pocket trip, got shuffled back a couple times, did get a dream run up the rail, but once the horse shook free, just absolutely exploded home and galloped out really, really well. May have found a new home on the turf. Joe Sharp had a very good opening day with some price shots at Kentucky Downs. Seems to have some live runners at the meet. And, if this horse runs back to that last race, should be tough, and the price will be right. And I'm not really concerned at all about the added distance for off-ramp. The Mod horse ran at Saratoga a couple of times, a couple of starts back, went to Ellis Park last out, was the favorite, overcame a lot of adversity to win that race and looked very good doing it. This is a horse, and you look for these kinds of horses at Kentucky Downs, cutting back in distance a little bit with a little bit of tactical speed that should play well. And the price is going to be a lot shorter than off-ramp. I like the two horses equally, but for triple play purposes, I will always give you the bigger price when that's the case.
All right, here you go. Recap Joe's triple play for you here this morning. Race 1 at Kentucky Downs. He'll go with number 2, Smartest, at odds of 6-1. Race 3, he'll take number 8, Front Run the Fed, who is a huge price, 20-1 on the morning line. And in race number 6, he'll take another big price, number 3, Off Ramp, at odds of 12-1. You heard him say he also really likes number 4, Agra, in that race, but Off Ramp a bit of a bigger price for trainer Joe Sharp under jockey Tyler Gaffalione. Joe, great prices. We're going to see if we can get some of these horses home. What's going on at TwinSpires this weekend?
Yeah, just all kinds of great promotions. I know they got the money back promotion for Kentucky Downs, where if you bet a horse to win and they run second or third, you get up to $10 back. It's great win insurance. It's the perfect promotion for Kentucky Downs because if you bet a favorite and they run second or third, you get your money back. And if you bet a long shot that you normally wouldn't bet, $10 to win, hey, if the horse wins, you're really going to get paid. But if the horse runs second or third, hopefully you've got some place and show money on the horse as well, but you'll get up to $10 back on the win bet. So always great promotions at TwinSpires. I think they got that late pick 5, hit it and split it at Colonial as well. But make sure you check it out. They've always continuously added great features on the app and on the website, and some tremendous tournaments too. They've really gotten into the tournament game. We've seen some NTRA, NHC, BCBC qualifiers in recent weeks, and then some smaller money tournaments. The $100 tournaments for the player that doesn't have a big bankroll really fits the bill as well. So TwinSpires continues to evolve, and they continue to offer great opportunities for the horse player.
Joe, we will not get an opportunity to talk here on the show before your Chicago Bears and my Pittsburgh Steelers kick things off with their seasons next Sunday. The Bears are playing the Titans at home. Of course, the Steelers traveling to Atlanta. I'm going to be cheering for your Bears. I love when NFC teams beat an AFC opponent. It's wonderful for the Steelers. So I'm going to be cheering for your Chicago Bears next weekend.
Yeah, and this whole offseason, Mike, we've been talking, over the course of the last few months since the draft. It's been super exciting for the Bears, the fans, featured on Hard Knocks, which is, kind of brings you a more intimate look into the team and some of the players that are fighting for spots and the new star players to the team, and obviously the draft picks with Caleb Williams and Roma Doomsday. And haven't been this excited about a season for a long time, not only this year, but the future looks bright moving forward. You guys got Justin Fields. I'm rooting for him. I'm not surprised they named Russell Wilson the starter, but I'm thinking after week 3 when things aren't going so well, the future with Justin will be upon you.
Joe Kristufek here with the TwinSpires Triple Play and a quick look at the Bears season, a quick preview of the Chicago Bears season, which again begins next Sunday. Joe, appreciate it, my friend. Go enjoy the rest of your day and this weekend. Good luck at the races. Okay, sounds good, Mike. Always a pleasure. Be well. All right. Don't forget, you can play all 3 of those races Joe just talked about and any race you're betting this weekend with TwinSpires here today. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, and still to come, Dale, Tim at 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns with afternoon racing on Thursdays and Saturdays and a new late afternoon post of 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. Back is our popular 12% takeout pick 5, now offered twice daily. Join us for our biggest day of the season on August 10th at 1 p.m. for Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, featuring 7 stakes races, including the Grade 1 Arlington Million. And then September 7th, we'll wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. Last weekend on Equine Forum, a discussion arose concerning the Travers Stakes. The question was asked, what is the greatest upset in the history of the Travers? Keen Ice defeating Triple Crown winner American Pharaoh in 2015 dominated the discussion. But host Mike Penna mentioned that Jim Dandy winning at odds of 100-1 nearly 95 years ago could not be ignored. That's why we take a moment now to look back at the 1930 Travers Stakes. In today's world, racing fans often exchange thoughts via social media. But in 1930, turf riders spoke of the rocking chair brigade on the porch of the United States Hotel in Saratoga Springs, New York. Apparently, that was the place to be if one wanted to engage in a robust discussion of all things Saratoga racing. And the curmudgeons of the rocking chair brigade grudgingly admitted that the 1930 Travers had the makings of one of the best showdowns in the history of the race. Only 4 horses were scheduled to go to the post. Gallant Fox, owned by the Bel Air stud of William Woodward Sr., would be the 1-2 favorite on the basis of an unbeaten season which had seen him win, in order, the Wood Memorial, the Preakness, the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, the Dwyer, and the Arlington Classic. Which one, a colt owned by Harry Payne Whitney, would be 8-5. He had been the dominant colt of the crop as a juvenile in 1929. Winning the Saratoga Special, the Champagne, and Belmont's Futurity. And even though he had lost the Belmont Stakes to Gallant Fox, he had beaten a pair of 4-year-olds to win the Whitney. So, given which one's overall record, the thought was that Gallant Fox needed to beat him in the Travers to settle the issue of who truly was the best of the group. Completing the field were Sun Falcon at 30-1 and Jim Dandy listed at 100-1. Hardly anyone so much as glanced at Jim Dandy in the paddock on Travers Day, as he was said to be nothing more than a sore-footed colt. Even when someone mentioned that Jim Dandy had won the Grand Union Hotel Stakes in the mud at Saratoga as a 2-year-old at 50-1 odds, a fact that would seem significant, the response was, yes, but he has not won a race since then. Jim Dandy's trainer was John McKee, a former boxing promoter from Mount Sterling, Kentucky. McKee did not deny that Jim Dandy suffered from sore feet, but the training track at Saratoga was deep and had done the colt's feet good, and Travers Day came up muddy. Look at that soft mud, McKee told onlookers. He will love that. Still, no one heard McKee, no one believed him, or no one cared. As Jim Dandy entered the track with jockey Red Baker in the saddle, spectators dismissively called the colt an uninspiring chestnut. Owner Chaffee Earl, whose family was in the newspaper publishing business in Los Angeles, didn't even bother to make the trip from California. Baker, a native of Spokane, Washington, had come to secure the mount on Jim Dandy by pure chance. He was driving along Union Avenue and headed to the track one morning when he noticed a man walking in the rain. He offered the man a ride, and that man happened to be McKee. In the course of conversation, McKee told Baker he could use some help with a colt named Jim Dandy, and Baker was happy to lend a hand. On Travers Day, just before the call for riders up, McKee reminded Baker that Jim Dandy loved muddy going, while the 2 favorites hated it. and he noted that Earl Sandy was riding Gallant Fox and Sonny Workman was on Which One, and that the two jockeys had been known for an intense rivalry. And since everyone believed the 61st edition of the Travers was essentially a match race anyway, McKee thought it possible the two jockeys might focus so much on each other that they would make poor decisions regarding overall strategy. McKee was correct. Gallant Fox and Which One battled stride for stride around the first turn and all the way up the backstretch. By the time they rounded the final turn, Which One began drifting off the rail and took Gallant Fox wide. And Jim Dandy, at odds of 100-1, ran up the rail and passed them both in the stretch. Jim Dandy won the Travers by 8 lengths over Gallant Fox that day, as Which One finished another 6 lengths back in third. Sun Falcon was fourth, beaten 17 lengths. Jim Dandy would make a total of 20 starts in 1930, with the Travers being his only victory. Which One would be retired following the race, while Gallant Fox went on to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup and finish the season with 9 wins in 10 starts. And so, that's how Jim Dandy came to upset Triple Crown winner Gallant Fox in the Travers Stakes in 1930. Some 85 years later, Keen Ice would upset Triple Crown winner American Pharoah in the Travers as well. While Jim Dandy was a much bigger price, maybe all that matters is the fact that both he and Keen Ice upset a Triple Crown winner in the Travers Stakes, and both added their own chapter to the mystique of Saratoga and its signature race. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Nobody weaves a story together like Kurt Becker. My thanks to Kurt for that story. If you missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, check out the Stroll Through Racing History page on our website, horseracingradio.net, and you can listen to all of those shows. And don't forget, too, about our weekly Brisnet.com call-in show, 6 to 7 Eastern, every Thursday with Bobby Newman and James Scully. It is your chance to call in and talk racing with our experts. Every Thursday, 6 to 7 Eastern, here on HRRN. Coming up next, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in 10 Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of a record-setting $33 million in purses and awards? The chance to be a champion? Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you the chance to do just that. With an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships in Del Mar, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage. Win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race, entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a Nominator Award of $10,000, travel awards, and so much more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
And Sierra Leone is revving up fifth. He's 4 lengths off the new leader, Fierceness. 3/4 in 1:11 and 3. They're at the top of the stretch, and Fierceness takes command. Sierra Leone is coming with his run on the outside of Torpedo Anna, who's currently second. They're in the final furlong. Johnny V asking Fierceness for everything he has. 3-length lead. Torpedo Anna running her heart out and coming with every stride. Fierceness, Torpedo Anna in an absolutely dramatic conclusion. The champ is back. Fierceness holds off a gallant Torpedo Anna to win the DraftKings Travers. Sierra Leone was third.
Frank Miramati with the call of last weekend's Travers Stakes. The colors of owner Mike Rapoli are now painted on the infield canoe at Saratoga, courtesy of that victory in the Midsummer Derby by Fierceness. Is that the greatest tradition in racing? Dale and Tim shared their thoughts here this morning. Plus, should the horse with the most Kentucky Derby qualifying points get to choose their post position? And what do jockeys and trainers really talk about immediately following a race? Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, Tim is at Kentucky Downs. Dale is at Saratoga. We are ready to roll on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. And guys, every week we remind our listeners that if they have a question or a topic that they want to hear you guys talk about, they can email that to me or post it on our social media pages, and we will include those in the show. And one listener every week will be chosen at random to record their question for you. So essentially ask the question here on the program instead of me reading it. Well, this week's show is really cool because nearly every single topic on today's program is submitted by our listeners. So I know you're going to enjoy it. We're going to kick it off with Shane in North Carolina, who wants to know, with Fierceness winning the Travers and having his silks painted on the Travers canoe, which has now been done for the 63rd straight year, what is your favorite horse racing tradition? Tim Wilkin, what do you think?
My favorite horse racing tradition is going to the window and after I make a bet and collecting, although that tradition does not happen nearly enough times. But one tradition I think is pretty cool up at Saratoga is when they ring the bell before each race. I think it's 5 or 7 times they ring it, and that harkens back to the days when that was to alert trainers and jockeys that it was 17 minutes to post. And that's kind of they do it every race. And, you know, the people are wondering what that bell sound is for before every race. That's what it's signifying. And that's kind of a neat thing. You know, obviously he mentioned the canoe. And, you know, there's plenty of traditions wherever you go. When they paint the weather vane at Pimlico for the horse that wins that race. And I don't want to use all up because Dale will get mad at me saying I took some of his, but I'll let him. But, you know, my favorite one is the bell.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to bring that up because not many people realize. I think it's 17 minutes to start ringing the bell or something like that.
Yeah.
And to make people aware of how many minutes to post before they had TVs and stuff. But the best of all has to be playing my old Kentucky home when the horses walk out for the Kentucky Derby. That and drinking the mint juleps on Derby Day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Wynn started that. You know, he was supposedly a great marketer when he ran Churchill Downs in the early 1900s, and he's credited for both making the mint julep synonymous with the Kentucky Derby and the playing of my old Kentucky home when they walk out.
Never had a mint julep.
You're not missing much, even when I used to drink a lot. That was, I said one time I was 15, I was going to be real cool at the Derby, and ordered me a mint julep. They sold it to me, and I realized 2 sips in I wasn't as cool as I thought I was.
Yeah, I don't mind them, but if I have one, That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. One of the real cool traditions that we've been privileged to witness is when we were broadcasting the Barbados Gold Cup for several years, and they have a parade that takes place on the turf course where they run the race. They have a parade that takes place before, and there are people on stilts walking on the turf course, and they have cars coming down as if it's a float. It's just a real cool spectacle. I think a lot of the international racing traditions are really cool.
There used to be a thing that they did at Saratoga. On opening day, they'd have the old-time carriages come down with a bunch of people in them, and they'd all be all dressed up. I mean, sort of like what they do at, not to the extent they do at Royal Ascot with the Royal Family's procession, but they would do something on opening day. It goes back to the days of Mary Lou Whitney, and that was kind of neat when they have the horse-drawn carriages come down. They let them off at the finish line. Unfortunately, I never got to ride in one. I wasn't invited.
You knew you don't act right all the time. But, they've got another thing. You go to Keeneland, you see all the lawn jockeys that are painted with the horses that won the stakes the year before. And same thing with Saratoga. When you come in and out of the front entrance off of Nelson Avenue, they've got all the lawn jockeys sitting around there holding up the placard of the race that they won, painted in the color of the owners that won the race. A lot of good tradition. Our game is steeped in tradition.
Yeah, fantastic question, Shane. We appreciate it. We move on to a question submitted via email from Tom in St. Louis, who has a couple questions about track surfaces. Dale, I'll come to you on this one first. He wants to know, can you explain the difference between the inner and outer turf courses at Saratoga, and do certain horses like one turf course, the inner or the outer, over another?
Yeah, I would think that some horses probably would prefer, because of the wider turns would be the biggest thing. And the other thing is where you can put the starting gate. You can run certain races on the inner that you can't on the outer. I don't know specifically which ones right now, but it depends on where the gate is, how close to the turn you're braking. So there's some difference there. The surface and the grass are basically the same. They they do that to protect the course. So when it starts getting beat up, they move from one to the other. But I think there probably are some horses that would prefer. You hear horses like the speed horses like the inner better. Whether that's true or not, statistics hold that true or not, I don't know. But I would say the biggest thing is the bigger turns suit some horses better than sharper turns.
Tim, what do you think? Do you agree?
Well, I agree with just about everything he said. I mean, the outer is the Mellon turf course, which is obviously it's named in honor of Paul Mellon's family, who was a prominent owner and breeder. And yeah, the turns on the inner tighter. That's where they run the jump races as well. I think that the outer more for mile races. I think, does that sound right, Dale?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And on the inner, it's more 7 furlongs, that kind of thing. And but yeah, it's as far as telling if a horse likes it or not. That's a question that I can't answer because I don't train horses. But being down here at Kentucky Downs, it's the main thing that people are talking about is down here, and Dale would attest to that, is the horse comes on down here because of the configuration of this track and, the dips and the bends and all that. But they say horses either like it or they don't. There's no in between. So obviously it's different up at Saratoga because you don't have that kind of dip and bend and the different configuration. But, again, I wouldn't know which horses like it and which don't because I don't train horses.
Yeah, well, the second part of Tom's question, and this is really right in Dale's wheelhouse. Dale, he wants to know, why do certain tracks have training tracks, and what goes into a trainer's decision to gallop or work his horse or her horse on the main surface or on the training track? How do you decide?
The biggest thing about having a training track is having enough property to have one. Like Churchill Downs doesn't have enough property, so we've only got the main track, and then they've got a training center way off site. Saratoga, I think you've got 6 racetracks on the whole property, counting all the turf courses, 6 or 7. I prefer to train on the main track, but sometimes the training track will be in a little better condition because they can seal it during the races. So if it's raining and it doesn't get as muddy, then we'll go over then. Plus, they have 2 breaks on each racetrack, and sometimes during the break, to get all your horses out, you'll slip over to the training track while they're reconditioning the main track. And but basically, it's just there's so many horses to get them all out. They need the 2 racetracks.
All right, a couple more listener-submitted questions to get to. This next one comes from Rick in Sacramento, California. And Rick was watching a race recently. And, guys, after the race, the rider and trainer had a lengthy conversation. And he asked, what could the rider tell the trainer that the trainer wouldn't have already noticed anyway? Dale, what do you think?
Some of them could be pretty comical if you could tape them. But I'm going to tell you, there can't be any more misery in a job, in my opinion, if you think about any job, than a jockey having to walk back with a trainer and owner that think their horse should have won, even though it wasn't the best horse, and explain to them why he got beat. That has to be misery for those jockeys. And some of them are pretty comical. They go, I mean, every one of them, first off, is he needs blinkers. That's the first thing the jockey's going to tell you. And that's why every horse retires with blinkers on. The other thing is, what I really want to know personally is, did the horse feel okay? Did he make any noise? Did anything go wrong that we need to know about going back to the barn to check and fix? You know, you can pretty much watch a race and find out. But there have been some funny ones. I'll tell you a story. I told Pat Day one time to go to the lead and open up. And he was back 5th or 6th, and we're walking back. And I said, Pat, why didn't you go to the lead? He said, I had to stay with my horse. And I thought that was pretty good. Then one time, one of my best friends ever, we used to live together. We were living together back then, Scott Miller. We were both kids. I'm training. He's riding. And the horse was a speed horse, and he didn't get out running. And I went down and said, Scott, what happened at the gate? He said, something happened, but I don't remember what it was. but let's claim foul anyway. So we got booed out of grandstand when we found out it was just him sitting, didn't break good with the horse. So we got booed out of there. And one time I had Pat and Tammy on a horse, both of them on 2 horses in the race. And she used to get on me all the time about Pat. I would never say anything bad to him if he rode a bad race, which Pat would be the first one to jump up and say, I rode this one bad, because he knew you were going to ride your back. It didn't matter. We were walking through the tunnel, and both of them ran bad. I said, Pat, I'll never put you on that horse again. I should have never ridden you. You're too good a rider for that horse. And I turned around to her and said, what in the hell were you doing? Pat got a little kick out of that one. But some of them are pretty funny. I'm not going to go into any detail, but Kent DeSarmo was always my favorite because you never knew what was coming out of his mouth. Words that aren't in the English language.
Yeah, we used to call them Kentisms when we were doing the broadcast.
Yeah, Kent was the best. At apex of the turn. Always something happened at apex of the turn. I had to go look up what apex of the turn was.
Dale, were you ever really, really mad at a jockey after a ride?
Yeah, the worst was Kent, and me and him still argue about that. On Patio Prado in the Kentucky Derby, I wanted to choke him after the race. There was too much press around, too many witnesses. I think he stood up before the wire and got me nailed for second.
Okay, I remember that.
That was the maddest I ever was.
Have you ever had a jockey get mad at you after a race?
Jerry Bailey, he was the worst. Absolute worst to walk back with. A great guy. I love everything about Jerry. We're good friends. But after a race, you could not talk to the guy. He would take the saddle tail and throw it at you. So we got in an argument over instructions one time, and I told him try to go take back off the pace, and they went in 52 or something for the first part of it at the turf race. And he comes back and says, it's your fault. You told me to take back. I said, well, you're the Hall of Famer. You're supposed to know if they're going 52, don't take back. Let it go. When he moved too early on Kitten's Joy one day, that's when he made a mistake. And we're walking back, and he said, your horse was too fresh today. And I wanted to smack him that day, too. It took 10 years later, he came back and told me he rode a bad race on Kitten's Joy. But that's when he was riding on horses for Billy Mott. And I went over to Mott one day, and I said, how do you talk to this guy after a race? And he said, I don't. He said, I wait till the next morning. He comes to the barn. We sit in the office, and we talk about the races. He said, but remember, that little bit of edge about him might be what makes him the greatest rider in the country right now. And then I started giving him a little more break, and I took Billy's advice and started talking to him the next day.
Yeah, I remember when...
Good question, though.
when Jude was doing these shows with me, he would always tell the story about Gary Stevens, kind of cut from that same cloth. He hated to lose so much that he would get very upset when he came back after a race if he didn't win. He was ticked off that he didn't win.
Yep. That's how they get some.
Yep. Well, that's what makes them good.
They're real competitors, those guys.
Timmy, did you ever overhear a jockey trainer conversation after a race when you were standing there waiting for a quote or something like that?
Yeah, I've heard them. I mean, it's usually they're pretty civil conversations, but I've seen animated discussions, and usually the trainers and the jockeys are moving away from us. They're smart enough to know they don't want us to hear what they're saying. But Nick Zito, I've seen him very animated, and he'll tell me later what he had to say, and those are some comical anecdotes that he would leave me with. But it's just how competitive everybody is, because this is also putting food on the table. This is a livelihood. So
one last story. One quick last story. We're spending too much time on this topic, but I love this question. Whoever sent this one, and this is the best question we've had in a long time. But Angel Cordero told me the story that he and Leroy Jolly helicoptered from Belmont to ride it. He had to ride at Monmouth Park that night for Leroy. And they took a helicopter over. And after the race, Leroy was one that would get mad. Him and Alan Jerkins were the two most famous ones. Alan told me he used to yell at them so much they wouldn't even listen to him anymore. They didn't care. But Leroy would get mad. He said Angel said he didn't ride a very good race and got beaten. Leroy's cussing him on the way back, and he said he waited till he got about 20 yards from him where he knew he couldn't catch him. He turned around and said, F you. Now, these two just took a helicopter from New York over to Jersey. So Angel said he gets a cab and goes to the airport to get on the helicopter, and Leroy had left him.
Oh, nice. Fantastic story. Rick in Sacramento, that was an outstanding topic, and we thank all of our listeners for submitting them. Remember, you can do that every week, and we'll work them into the show for you. We have one more to get to before our Showdown 3 update and Dale and Tim's final point of the week. Guys, this one comes from Dr. Mike in New Jersey, and he has a new idea for the Kentucky Derby point system, and he wants your opinion.
It's Dr. Mike from the Jersey Shore. Mike, I have a question for Dale and Tim about the Kentucky Derby. It all started, I bet, looking at Lucky. Had a chance, but he drew the number 1. So my question is, we have the point system, which I'm totally in favor of because it makes leading up to the Derby, you don't sit out a race, you have to get points. I have problems with horses 18, 19, 20, and so on who get in because of a scratch. I know owners want to be there, but they kind of don't deserve to be there, and they can ruin or screw up the actual running of the race with post positions, cutting horses off. Make a long story short, I want to know if you think it's a good idea that the point system should count for something, not just getting in the race. Top point getter should get the first choice of post position. God bless and be well. And do not go Steelers.
Well, Dr. Mike, I could have cut that last part out, but I kept it in there. It was part of your question. I left it in there. That'll be the last time you ever ask a question on my show, but let's get to the answers. Timmy, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that one part of that, if you get enough points, you deserve to be in the field. I just think that's the way that the system is devised, and if you have enough points, you deserve to be in the race. But I do agree with him that the horses that have the most points, it should mean something. And I think that there should be not a lottery, but if you have the most points, you should get the first pick, because you played the game and got the most points during the prep season, and you should be rewarded for that. And I think you should get the first pick. And the horse with the second most gets the second pick, and so forth. I think that is a good idea because, usually the best horse, I guess, the best horses are the ones that have the most points, and they should be the ones that are rewarded and get to pick where they want to start from in the field.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard this idea kicked around a little bit. It's not a novel idea, but Personally, I don't like it. I think when you get to the Kentucky Derby, it's different than every other race. The best 23-year-olds get there. What they've done before doesn't count. They line up in the gate. They're all equal. They carry equal weight. There's no handicap. There's no weight allowance. Everybody's 126 pounds. Everybody's going a mile and a quarter. They're all 3-year-olds. It's the best has a chance. Just getting in is a big part. I kind of disagree with drawing off the also eligibles, too. I mean, Eric Reed would strongly disagree with the horses don't belong that draw in off the also eligibles. But I like it. I like it the fact you get there, and then everybody's equal from the last prep race till they open the gate on for the first Saturday in May.
All right, Dr. Mike, we appreciate the question. Again, if you have a question you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss on the program, email that question to me, mike@horseracingradio.net, or post it on our social media pages, and we will do as we did here today. We'll work those questions in for you, and Dale and Tim will tell you their thoughts. All right, guys, quick update on the Showdown 3. We're barreling into the final weekend in August, which means we're 9 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup and only 9 weeks left in the Showdown 3. And going into today, it is really anybody's race. Tim, you have the lead with your Lost in the Fog stable, leading the way with 51 points. Dale's Team Victory is in second with 49 points, and I am sitting in third with 44 points. Dale, you have Too Sharp, the Phil Bauer trainee, running in the Grade 3 Prioress later today. Timmy's team is idle on this weekend, so we'll see how things shake out from here. But, Timmy, right now, you got the lead, my man.
I do, and I already have the handicap because I've lost 2 of my horses, so I only have 4.
You've got to leave for a couple more hours.
A couple more hours. Well, that's bold talk, but, I'm just going to sit idly by and be quiet and let my horses do my talking for me. And, may the best team win, and I think it's mine.
All right.
We'll see.
There you have it. A lot of things yet to be determined in the Showdown 3. Guys, time for your final point of the week. Tim, why don't you kick it off, my man? What's your final point this week?
Well, I'm down here at Kentucky Downs, like I said before, and they're going to run the most expensive race of the meet today in the Nashville Derby. And our friends at West Point have 2 horses in it, Carson's Run and Cagino. And I'm wishing safe trips to everybody, but I hope that we see our friends from West Point in the winner's circle.
Yeah, hope we do. I always love to see West Point win. All I want to say is we're winding down last weekend at Saratoga. This is a great place. I always have a good time when we're here. And it's not just the racing, it's the whole town. The whole town gets behind racing. You feel loved when you're here. And I just want to say thanks to the whole town. And also want to say go Steelers.
Well done, Dale.
All right, and also I want the listeners, keep sending these topics in. Makes a much better show. I think Mike ran out of stuff to talk about. It was getting a little lame, but thanks for sending them in. Keep it up.
Best West Point of the week right there from Dale Romans. Appreciate it, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck at the races. We'll talk again next week.
All right, pal. Thanks.
Yeah, if you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, go ahead and email them to me, and we'll get them worked in. I Ask They Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at Parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives. together.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Remember the last time your family visited the forest? It's a place of wonder and imagination for the whole family, where stories come to life. And it's closer than you think. Ready to plan your next visit? Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Swift Delivery as they corner. Pierre's gone up to join Runaway Charlie, and Pierre on the outside going to the front. Out in the center, McAvoy, and out wider Exude, Legal Catch. Pierre trying to finish this off. Runaway Charlie the inside. A couple away. Swift Delivery's emerging after them now and is thundering home. And Swift Delivery's gone right on by. And Swift Delivery wins with a lot left. Swift Delivery by a length and a quarter. Runaway Charlie and Pierre. A couple to Legal Catch, and then Exude and Roscar. The time is 1:42.97.
That's Woodbine announcer Robert Geller with the call of that allowance win by Swift Delivery, July 19th at Woodbine. And Swift Delivery has attracted a lot of attention in the media over the past couple of days because of the fact that Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is now involved in the ownership of Swift Delivery, who races in the Toronto Cup later today. And you can imagine that Swift Delivery will get plenty of support from Kansas City Chiefs fans and from Swifties, all the Taylor Swift fans, which, by the way, Mark Cassey, the trainer of Swift Delivery, coming out and saying that he and his wife Tina are big Swifties, huge fans. I think anytime you can get an athlete the stature of a Travis Kelce or any celebrity that wants to get involved in our sport, I think it's a very positive thing. I think it's great for the sport. It provides a lot of crossover with fans that they have developed in their respective professions that maybe have never paid attention to horse racing in their life. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are fans of Travis Kelce or Taylor Swift that could care less about horse racing, but now they're going to have a rooting interest in our game because he's involved. It's good stuff. And all the best to Swift Delivery and Travis Kelce and the Swifties coming up later today in that Toronto Cup at Woodbine. Hey, don't forget that the September issue of Blood Horse Magazine features 138 pages, which includes several special features. You can download a copy of that September issue now from the Blood Horse Magazine tablet app via the App Store or Google Play, or you can order a copy at shop.bloodhorse.com or subscribe today at subscribe.bloodhorse.com. Boy, busy show, huh? Covered an awful lot of ground for you here this morning, as we tend to do each and every week here on the Equine Forum. How cool, how great were the stories that Dale was telling in I Ask, They Answer when he was talking about some of the conversations that he's had with riders over the years. And
some of the greatest riders ever to do it. And you heard him talk about Hall of Famer Jerry Bailey and how he didn't like to lose. And maybe he wasn't all that pleasant when he would come back and talk to the trainer after the race. And I told you Gary Stevens, you heard me mention that. Gary Stevens, also notorious for that. People that are successful in anything don't like to fail. And when you're a rider the caliber of a Jerry Bailey or a Gary Stevens, among the best to ever do it, you expect a lot of yourself and from the horses that you're riding. And when you don't get the results that you're looking for, it doesn't sit very well. That's what makes all athletes great, and that includes jockeys too. And you heard from Dylan Davis earlier in the program. That was a lot of fun. Dylan Davis is attempting to find himself in third place in the jockey standings. He's trying to get there. He still has to pass Tyler Gaffalione, but as you heard him say in that interview in the first hour of the program, if you missed it, go back and listen to it on the podcast. You heard him say that Tyler's out of town for the next couple of days. He's not coming back to Saratoga. So it gives Dylan the ideal opportunity to take advantage of his absence and see if he can catch him and finish third, riding at a very high level. That was a fun interview with him. If you missed any portion of the show at all, head back to the website, check out the podcast whenever you have some time, and you can do that too on every podcast platform. My thanks to Dylan and all of the guests who made this show possible here this morning, including Dale and Tim in the previous segment, Kurt Becker for his Stroll Through Racing History, and Joe Kristufek with the TwinSpires Triple Play. My thanks to our producers, Lee Delapina and Kim Price in our Lexington studios, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening. And yeah, go Steelers.